Naruto x Lotm, A Fool's Errand. Author. Hoin_Kayoma. Chapter 61-80. Tachibana looked at the woman in front of him with a little fear. But the only reason he managed to keep looking at her was because she exhibited a grandmotherly aura and not a hostile one. He activated his spirit vision to understand what she currently was and found her to be a sort of spirit. System, she can't do anything to me right now, correct? The host is perfectly safe. If the host does not want her, she can be returned to Pure Land without any memory of this incident. Closing square bracket. Tachibana gulped and mentally nodded. All right. Mito-sama, may I speak? You have good manners, but why are you so afraid of me? Don't I look like a kind old woman right now? I mean you do, and that is the only reason I think I'm even able to speak right now. It's just, you feel intimidating. If I wanted to intimidate you, you would know it, Mito said calmly while holding her chin high. I understand Mito-sama. Then speak freely. I was just wondering if you would become a messenger for me and if possible be my sealing teacher. I found your sealing books hidden in this house and am studying them, but I can't exactly ask anyone to clear my doubts about things I don't understand. So you were the one who found them. What happened to my granddaughter? Where is she? I didn't see her in Pure Land. Tachibana nodded, and spoke. I didn't know this was Tsunade-sama's home. But she's been out of Konoha after the Third Shinobi War ended. She betrayed the village. No, I think she had to stop being a shinobi because she became afraid of blood after her lover died in her hands. They let Tsunade leave the village with such a debilitating weakness. I don't think Hiruzen is so stupid, so no one knows about this weakness, but how do you know about it? In fact, how did you come up with this jutsu to summon me in the first place? You're too young for being able to mess with souls. Mito looked at Tachibana with a frown, her displeasure and distrust clear on her face as she looked at him. Tachibana looked at Mito for a while before explaining with a sigh, I can't really tell you that, even if I did it would only sound strange and you probably won't believe me. But my offer still stands, would you like to accept it? The offer to be your messenger and sealing teacher. Why should I do that for you? I mean for starters, you won't remember any of this happened if you don't accept my offer. And secondly, you won't be able to tell anyone else that this is happening, no matter how you try to inform them about it, irrespective of if you accept my offer or not. Mito's eyebrows rose up slowly with interest. Are you sure I won't remember anything? What if I seal the information in my mind? I don't exactly know what will happen if you do that, but why don't we try something else? How about you try and attack me right now? I'm sure you have some way to attack me. Mito frowned for a moment, but before Tachibana could even blink his eyes or try and speak to convince her to attack him, a golden chain shot out of her back and moved towards his face. Clash! Sparks flew everywhere as Mito's sealing chain smashed into a golden barrier that was protecting Tachibana. No matter how much Mito frowned, the chain didn't budge an inch. And when she kept it up for a few seconds, she suddenly had to pull back her chain since she felt something shock it a little. Mito examined her sealing chain and observed the cracks that had formed on it before sending it back into her body. It seems you were right, there is something strange about you. I mean, is there really anything that can go wrong with this for you? Isn't it boring in the afterlife? Nothing to do and only wait until you are reincarnated again. How about watching the world alongside me? Wouldn't that help cure your boredom until you choose to reincarnate? Mito looked into Tachibana's eyes and thought about his offer for a while in silence. After a few minutes, when Tachibana started to feel a little bored, he looked at Mito and spoke calmly, it's alright if you don't want to accept. I hope you have a nice day. Does the host want to end the ritual and send Mito back to Pure Land? Closing square bracket. Tachibana was about to blow out the candle and end the ritual, but Mito finally spoke. No. I am worried about the terms of my contract. Will I be forced to serve you unconditionally? So that's what you were worried about. Tachibana realized and quickly pulled out the contract that the system had prepared and gave it to Mito. I can't read T. Don't worry, just try reading it, I'm sure you can understand whatever it is. Mito looked at the parchment again and her eyes widened when she actually understood everything written on it in spite of the difference in language. How will I deliver your letters? Will the other person use a similar jutsu to call me? Tachibana didn't know the answer, so he asked the system and paraphrased its reply. You will gain the knowledge on how to do so after you sign the contract. But you cannot use the method to exit Pure Land and travel the real world. You can only move into the real world for the purpose of delivering a message or if someone calls particularly for you. Tachibana spent some more time waiting for Mito to read the contract, and when it was done he asked her again, so you agree? Mito looked unsure, but then nodded, all right. I will agree if you promise to answer one of my questions each time I deliver a letter for you. As long as those questions aren't anything personal, I will answer one question each time. Okay, as long as you are truthful about your answers. Then about the extra negotiable clauses, can you help protect me for a price each time? You can't give me anything interesting enough that I will want to sacrifice myself or even fight for you. Tachibana nodded and asked the real question he wished to get a positive answer for, can you mentor me in sealing then? Mito looked at Tachibana for a while before she nodded, all right. But I will only do that if you allow me to tour the world for the same amount of time that it takes me to teach you everything. Mito agreed, not because she wanted to help Tachibana, but because she knew that since Tachibana had access to the books on sealing, he would eventually learn everything anyway, and if she could get a little bit of freedom because of it, she might as well accept it. So if you teach me for an hour, you want to roam around for an hour? Mito nodded. Tachibana quickly asked the system and found that this could be arranged, but you'll only be able to go wherever I go, so you won't be able to go into places that would make people think wrongly of me for being in. For example, I can't just waltz into the Hokage's office or a clan's guarded neighborhood or even the root or Anbu departments. And I would like it if you hid your appearance each time we went outside. Mito's eyes sharpened at the mention of root, but seeing Tachibana's resolute eyes, she thought about it and nodded in agreement after a while. How do I sign the contract system? Tachibana asked. The host can sign the contract by pouring a little bit of chakra into the contract. The contract has been edited to reflect the changes made to it. Closing square bracket. So you're fine with making a contract with me? Tachibana asked one final time and Mito nodded. Then just pour your chakra into the contract after you verify that the new contract is the same as what we agreed upon. Mito read through the contract again, and once she was satisfied, she poured her chakra into the contract, which gave her signature on it. Tachibana did the same, and once he did so, the contract split into two pieces that floated into Tachibana and Mito. Each of them felt a warm sensation course through their bodies that felt comforting and fulfilling before they opened their eyes and spoke at the same time. Please teach me sealing. Let's teach you sealing. Mito was eager to teach Tachibana sealing since she wanted to get out, while Tachibana was eager to learn sealing so that he could hide his abilities better and grow stronger. So you're saying you tried to seal a glass of water into your body? Mito asked with her brows furrowed while looking at Tachibana with an annoyed smile on her face. Tachibana innocently nodded. I thought that since the Jinchuriki is sealed inside a human, it would be alright to seal a glass of water in me too. I mean, that's logical, right? I mean, I read in your introduction book that seal masters who know complicated jutsu can seal those jutsu into a scroll so that other people can use the same jutsu. Mito took a few deep breaths while rubbing her temples to calm herself down before she suddenly opened her eyes and slammed her fist onto Tachibana's head. Ouch! What the hell, old woman? Why did you punch me? And system, why didn't you protect me from her punch? I thought she couldn't hurt me. The system detected no malintent from the punch. Perhaps the host should look at his own actions before blaming the system for everything. Closing square bracket. Tachibana frowned as he finally saw Mito smile in relief before she spoke to him calmly. Show me your sealing level 1. Want to see how good your calligraphy is? Tachibana nodded and pulled out a scroll, a brush and some sealing ink. He quickly made a storage seal and presented the outcome to Mito, who was a little surprised when she saw it. I didn't expect him to be this good. I guess my books did a good job teaching him till now. all the more reason it was in my favor to accept his offer. But, if he didn't get any guidance he'd probably end up dead with some stupid experiment of his. After those thoughts, Mito spoke calmly. All right. Your calligraphy level is decent enough that we don't have to start from scratch. From today onwards, however, you will learn to create a simple seal, and until you master it and its uses we won't move on to anything else. Isn't the storage seal the simplest one? Simple. That isn't even a warm-up. Tachibana was puzzled, but he was also excited to see what would be a simple seal by Mito's standards. This seal I will be teaching you is called the Mind Partition Seal. Mind Partition Seal. What does that do? Help me think better. Yes, it does help you think better, but that is not why it is important. What makes it important is the ability to section away a part of your mind and control exactly what it knows and doesn't know. This is incredibly important for any seal master. What's the use of being able to control what you know and don't know? I mean, wouldn't it be more efficient to always know everything? You are right about that. The sealing technique's name might be a little misleading, but it is named such because of how it works. For example, imagine you are in a situation where you are fighting with someone. Will you use your hands to draw a seal in the middle of combat? I mean, wouldn't all seal masters create sealing techniques on scrolls and then use them against their enemy? HMPF. Pathétique. Mito said with a proud chin lift. Sealing techniques aren't techniques that aim to make you prepare in advance and fight like a coward. They are the most dynamic method of combat. For example, in my previous question, a seal master would draw the seal onto the arena of their fight with their feet and then trap the opponent. The Mind Partition Seal is a technique that will enable you to simply give your legs the same knowledge as your hands so that you can draw with your feet instead. No training needed. Tachibana's mouth fell open. What? Mito, seeing this, only became prouder. Good thing he hasn't read any of the advanced books yet, otherwise he wouldn't have been so amazed. But seeing a child shocked with wonder, this takes me back to when I taught her about sealing, how innocent. Soon Tachibana was sprawled on the floor with several pages and scrolls as Mito instructed him on how to draw the seal. The seal was actually meant to be placed on the body, but Mito first asked Tachibana to practice on paper and later use special ink which would allow him to stick the sealing paper on his body and tattoo the ink onto it. Compared to the storage seal, the Mind Partition Seal was 15 times larger. It had several more complicated curves and strokes that needed to be carefully drawn. Tachibana wouldn't be able to master the seal overnight, but he was pretty sure he would be able to learn it in a couple of weeks' time. After having taken an A-rank mission recently, Team 7 was given time off. Especially since Sasuke was currently undergoing surgery to gain Kakashi's eyes and he had to rehabilitate after it too. So Tachibana's routine fell into a simple rhythm. He'd wake up in the morning and go to the orphanages to act as a magician. Then he'd use the washroom for a bit to summon Mito and leave the orphanage, and disguised as a little girl from the orphanage Mito would roam the village with Tachibana. After returning home, Tachibana would practice the Mind Partition Seal under Mito's strict guidance. The village has changed much, Mito said while sitting on Hashirama's head on the Hokage rock. I mean, time passes, and time has that effect of changing things, Tachibana commented, but Mito ignored him completely. The past few days, every time they went around the village, Mito would simply observe things and occasionally make comments. She would never engage in conversation or let Tachibana know her true thoughts. It was a little uncomfortable walking with a small girl who had the look of a sage on her face, but Tachibana somehow managed. Finally, Mito turned towards Tachibana and asked him a question casually. I'll deliver a letter for you later, but why are there Anbu constantly monitoring you? Tachibana looked at her and frowned a little before explaining himself, because I am the daimyo's only child. Little Mito's eyes widened and she looked at Tachibana with a little shock. Seriously? Yep, I chose to become a shinobi. Mito looked at Tachibana, seeing if he was lying or speaking the truth, but their contract did say that he would be truthful with her, so she didn't immediately reject his answer. Why? Well, One reason is because I know something horribly wrong is going to happen in the future, and the other is because I'm a little scared and worried that with everything that will happen in the future I'll be killed and no one will even notice. Mito's eyes narrowed before she asked, another one of your visions is a seer. I know no matter how much I try and convince you, you don't believe me, but we can do a simple test. I don't want you to toss more coins, that won't convince me. What if I told you about something that is going to happen in 2 months' time? How about that? Mito's brows raised as she appeared surprised. It's simple, Orochimaru will appear in the village and then kill the Kazekage Rasa and take his place in the Chunin exam finals to launch an attack on the village to kill his precious teacher Sarutobi Hiruzen. Hiruzen will die, but he will use the Death Reaper seal jutsu to seal away his disciple's hands. Tachibana said with a smile. Mito's eyes widened and her mouth hung slightly loose, but then she looked away. No way. Why are you so against my future seeing skills? Tachibana asked with a frown, since from the moment he'd brought it up, Mito had always been dismissive of it. Mito gave Tachibana a calm glance like he was a fool, but then calmly explained. Because that would mean nothing anyone does has any value to it. If it was all destined to happen, why does it need to happen in the first place? Where's the meaning in the life I lived? Tachibana nodded along to it too. I think about that too. But the way I see it is that my visions are just a glance at a possible future. It's one's actions that lead to those futures. But your coin flips. I couldn't even change the result if I used my sealing chains to change the outcome at the last minute. Mito expressed with a frown. True. But that's not because you can't change the future. My divinations are just that powerful in seeing the future, so I see you trying to change the outcome. Besides, I changed the future I saw, even if only barely, so that's proof enough. No technique is perfect, you stupid child. Tachibana was silent for a while before he spoke softly with a little worry. I mean, I'm sure it isn't perfect. After all, the first vision I had after getting my ability to divine was my death. Someone stabbed their hand through my heart and killed me. I hope that's not accurate and I can change it. Mito's eyes widened a little as she looked at Tachibana and saw him frowning, something he rarely did even in the worst of situations, like when she verbally beat him up when he made mistakes learning sealing. Very few things could wipe off the stupid smile on his face. Interesting. Did your mother drop you the first thing you were born? How are you this dumb? You know what, I'm going to count the number of brain cells you have. I'm sure I won't need more than a hand. Oh, there's no rotting pile of shit in your head. With all your delusions about the future, I thought it'd be filled to the brim with the same bullshit you speak. You want to create what? A computer? What's that? Something that will do the calculations for you. Are you alright? Did your last few brain cells die while trying to figure out this idea? Come on, buy me ramen. Call me Little Mito once again and I'll punch that face of yours into something not even your mother will recognize. Are you still going on about that computer thing of yours? Complete the mind partition seal first, then once your brain has some more braining to do, we can see if your ideas are not a steaming pile of dogshit. Did you really come up with this idea? That's a little hard to believe. I think you should cough up the true name of the person you stole this idea from. Or I'll start talking about the last 9 generations of your family, and not in a good way, mind you. What do you mean old people are supposed to be wise? I am wise. Wise enough to know that if I can't beat the shit out of you, I can at least break your heart at least once every day. All these comments were things Tachibana heard under Mito's gentle and nourishing persona. At the end of the 2 weeks, Tachibana was sitting in his room looking strangely at his feet that were working overtime to draw seals. Mito was looking at them strangely too. Tachibana shivered a little and bent low to cover his feet, but Mito slapped them away with her golden sealing chains. Don't cover them up. I need to understand your mastery over the technique to evaluate how good you actually are. Then don't look at them so weirdly at least. I feel violated. What are you? A young dreamy kunoichi that wants to entrap the daimyo's son and seduce him by showing them your ankles. Oh wait, I forgot that you are that kid. Well, nobles are known for inbreeding anyway, so I won't judge. Tachibana nearly hurled out the contents of his breakfast but managed to hold back as he finished drawing a storage seal using his feet. Tachibana's appearance had changed over the past 2 weeks since there were several ink marks on his body. Of course, in the beginning Tachibana couldn't leave his house for a few days without wearing baggy clothes in the blistering hot summer. But soon he got the insane idea to use lemon water as his tattoo ink so that he could hide the seals drawn all over his body. Mito said this wasn't a new idea and helped him hide the seals by kindly telling him the exact ratio for making such an invisible ink. So at present, all of Tachibana's limbs were connected to each other with several seals that worked in tandem to make him able to use any part of his body to do anything as long as it was flexible enough to do so. But given how Tachibana already had full control over his body due to the clown potion, he was experiencing a state of omnipotence when it came to his body. It truly felt like he had achieved the state of one with your weapon, from the various cultivation manga he had read in his previous life. After Mito was happy with the latest storage seal Tachibana drew, Tachibana had a test of his own to conduct. Mito-sama, can you send any knowledge anywhere using the mind partition seal? Yes. As long as it is connected to your body, anything can be sent anywhere. Then I have an idea. I can hear you out at least. Can't you directly give me all your sealing knowledge using this jutsu? Tachibana said, looking at Mito like an excited child. Mito shook her head. Not possible. My chakra will work only with my body, even though I don't have one right now. I can't send you information using my chakra. The mind partition seal was a prelude to the wood clone and the shadow clone jutsu my husband and his brother used. They tried doing things like you're thinking of, but they weren't able to extend it. As long as you can find a way to bridge the gap between the two different types of chakra without losing any of the information, you might be able to do it, but I doubt you have the brains to do that. Tachibana frowned. I could use grafting, but that's a sequence 3 or 2 or even 1 ability. I remember vaguely there was a shinobi who could absorb chakra in the Chunin exam. So learning his jutsu would be pretty valuable. But how do I learn his technique? Bargain with Orochimaru. No, he's someone I don't want to meet so soon. Then maybe make a deal with Sasuke for him to use his Sharingan and tell me the secrets of the jutsu that guy uses. That would be neat. You look like you have a plan, Mito asked softly. I think I do. But I can't do it right now. Any of my plans need time, and the earliest one is the Chunin exam. Mito shook her head at Tachibana's mention of the Chunin exam and spoke lazily. Find a way for me to drink tea again. I miss tea. I will be leaving now since there's not much else we can do today since you looked positively dead. Even before Tachibana gave her permission, Mito vanished from the room and re-entered Pure Land. There was no fancy Shinigami to take her away, she just turned transparent slowly until she vanished. Is that why she's been so cranky over the last 2 weeks? Because she doesn't have tea. Suddenly Tachibana felt a shiver run down his spine. He looked around wondering if Mito was in the room, but seeing no one he calmed down again and went back to cursing her. How rude. He did it in his mind this time though. The next morning, Tachibana woke up fresh and finally met Team 7 in the training grounds since Yamato had called them all. But with Yamato not there, all three, Tachibana, Naruto and Sakura, were all looking at Sasuke's new eye. Sasuke-kun, you got back your vision, Sakura said with a bright smile. Naruto was happy too, albeit a little jealous that Sasuke would surpass him again, but still excited for his rival. It was only Tachibana who was a little skeptical. Can you not control it? Tachibana asked politely, since Sasuke was going the Kakashi route of placing his headband over the eye to keep it covered. No. Sasuke shook his head. I feel like I can if I get to know the eye better, but I don't really know how to do that. I see. Tachibana nodded, understanding that Sasuke needed to unlock the Mangekyo Sharingan to be able to control it at will, perks of being an Uchiha, I guess. What about you? Did you get a teacher to teach you healing jutsus? Tachibana turned towards Sakura and asked her out of politeness. My teacher is the head nurse of the Konoha hospital. She takes time out of her schedule to teach me the basics every day. Although I haven't gotten to any real healing jutsu yet, I've been learning how to improve my chakra control so that I can do that. Naruto held his head. Am I the only one that's left behind? Didn't you get a C rank jutsu as a reward? Tachibana asked with a frown. Naruto looked away sheepishly and spoke with a little embarrassment. I couldn't do it. Tachibana was surprised. Even though he didn't have exceptional talent, his hard-headedness was enough to even get a jutsu as complicated as the Rasengan down in under a week. How did a simple C-rank jutsu stump him? Which jutsu did you pick? Tachibana asked, having a bad feeling. Naruto sent a glance at Sasuke and then looked at his toes, which he wiggled a little before mumbling, the fireball jutsu. Tachibana's mouth hung loose. Did you check your chakra nature before taking the jutsu? What's that? Chakra nature. Naruto instantly perked up after listening to Tachibana, wondering if his problem could be cured. Tachibana looked at Naruto, then he looked at Sakura and Sasuke. The two of them understood Tachibana's plight but offered no help. How did you pass from the academy? Tachibana whispered, but before Naruto could understand, process and get angry about what he said, Tachibana explained in simple words. Each person is born with an affinity to different elements. There are 5 elements: fire, water, earth, wind, and lightning. Naruto was confused. What does that have to do with why I can't learn the fireball jutsu? Because you likely don't have the fire affinity. It's like asking a fish to climb trees like a monkey. Do you think it could? Naruto quickly realized with that analogy and then smiled. So it was the old man's fault that I didn't get the right jutsu. That glasses person who gave me the jutsu looked shady too. I will ask him to change it. I wonder what affinity I have. What affinity should I have, Sakura-chan? People still hate him even though he's become a Konoha genin, don't they? Even in the show people only accepted him after he saved the village from pain. Well, whatever, not like I can do anything about his image. Soon Yamato arrived at the training ground and took each of them away with a clone. Naruto got the real body. What are you going to teach me about Yamato-sensei? Tachibana asked with a smile full of expectations. Since you're a beginner in sealing, why don't we start with something simple? How about learning the explosive seal? Tachibana almost frowned when he heard that. Shouldn't we start with calligraphy? Oh, is the village wanting to teach me sealing without giving me the knowledge to make my own seals just yet? They probably want to hold the knowledge as some sort of reward for my duty and contributions to the village, since they know I want to research jutsus. I hadn't expected that. Then I should show them just how interested I am in researching jutsus. Is that true, Yamato-sensei? Tachibana asked with a big smile. Will I be able to simply touch my opponents and cause them to explode after I master the explosion seal? Tachibana asked with starry eyes as he looked at Yamato. The only other shinobi recorded to be capable of creating seals on an opponent mid-battle was the 4th Hokage. Yamato was quick to douse Tachibana's enthusiasm, but knowing how helpful it was for a student to be enthusiastic, he quickly said, I hope you will be another one that will go down in history for being able to do so. Then I will surpass the 4th Hokage. Tachibana said like a child who'd taken the bait. With that, Tachibana started to learn sealing with Yamato while the others did similar things to improve their prowess. Sakura learnt genjutsu with her improved chakra control. Sasuke worked on sparring with Yamato to help acclimatize his Sharingan and be able to control it better. Naruto began training in wind nature and was practicing cutting leaves with the help of shadow clones. While Tachibana was doing 2 things. While he learnt the explosion seal slowly, he also showed his ingenuity by attempting to continuously modify the seal to make something new out of it. He hadn't made anything meaningful out of it just yet, but he had a plan and he was working towards it. If I make a seal that gives me the ability to launch controlled explosions without hurting myself, I could incorporate them into my taijutsu style and even fly around using them like Bakugo from MHA or Shinra from Fire Force. On top of that, since I have the ability to teleport around using flames, setting the area around me on fire with explosions would be quite useful. And so the four genin all continued working hard under Yamato for the preceding 2 weeks. Tachibana mastered the explosion seal. He could make the seal in under 30 seconds as long as he wasn't disturbed, and it was nearly 3 times more explosive than the normal seals on the market. Tachibana practiced uniquely. Yamato made him fight Sakura purely using explosive seals, so he had to become faster and faster at making them, otherwise he'd end up becoming a punching bag for her. The 4 of them also sparred each other often during the 4 weeks, and in simple taijutsu, Sasuke ranked first, with Naruto coming in at a close second since no one could match his stamina, while Tachibana came in third because he had an uncanny ability to maintain balance. Sakura was last in pure taijutsu. The trouble came when the match became a free-for-all. Sasuke was turning to become an absolute monster at using his Sharingan for genjutsu. Sakura's genjutsu was tricky and confusing too. Naruto's punches hurt the most, but Tachibana was the worst offender among them all. Tachibana's ability to spread around explosion tags and use them to teleport around the battlefield was almost at levels where none of them could keep up. The worst part was that Tachibana had several modified special explosive seals that he changed by adding multiple tricks like delay explosion. He could set off 2 seals at the same time, but one might explode much later than the other. And given how he would intermix them and spread them around his enemies, everyone would be left guessing which way he would teleport from. He was a menace. And so in the current spar, Sakura, Sasuke and Naruto had all joined hands to take Tachibana down. They'd bought time after Naruto used his multi-shadow clone jutsu and transformed into them before escaping into the forest. "What should we do?" Naruto asked Sakura and Sasuke. His eyes were trembling as he kept looking around, worried that he had missed a single explosion tag somewhere and Tachibana would appear out of it. Sasuke thought for a while but then gave up and looked at Sakura. "I have a plan, but it's risky," Sakura said while biting her lips. As soon as Sakura said that, Sasuke and Naruto's gaze sharpened. They both had the same firm, steely look in their eyes, each saying the same thing. "I don't care what it is. As long as it helps us in taking down Tachibana-kun, it is a great plan." Naruto and Sasuke could still feel the embarrassment they were left with on the first day they tried challenging him. They couldn't even sleep properly because of all the bruises on their bodies. There were so many bruises that Sakura didn't even have enough chakra to heal them. And Yamato-sensei had forbidden them from seeking treatment in the Konoha hospital. It was to train them for real-life battles where fighting with injuries was more than important if you didn't want to die. Tachibana looked around the forest. Although he could find out exactly where the rest of Team 7 was hiding from him using spirit vision, he couldn't simply use it and walk up to them. So Tachibana laid back knowing they would eventually come up to him for a fight since Yamato would only stop the training after there was only one person left standing. Pulling out a chair and his recent favorite book, Ika Ika Paradise, and began reading much to Yamato's amusement, who was keeping watch on his team with a wood clone. "You've done well, Yamato," Hiruzen said, smoking his pipe a little and looking at him with a smile. "It is because of their own enthusiasm that they're growing so well," Yamato said with a soft smile as he thought about his students. That's good. Students that are eager to learn more, those are good," Hiruzen said as if he was reminiscing about the times he taught his own students. There was a soft silence that occupied the office for a few seconds, before Hiruzen explained softly, "I have a mission for you." Yamato nodded softly and taking the scroll from Hiruzen he unfurled it to study it. Yamato's eyes widened a little when he read the contents of the scroll and became surprised, but then he frowned. "What do you think of the mission, Yamato?" Hiruzen asked patiently as he studied Yamato's changing expressions. It seemed like he wanted to say something but he was holding back, so Hiruzen gave him a nudge. "Speak freely, I hope to learn your true thoughts on the matter. I don't think they are ready for such a mission. I fear it might expose them to the darkness of the world too early." "Is that so?" Hiruzen said before standing up from his chair to look out of the window and at the large village he was responsible for protecting. "Why do you think they won't be able to handle this? I fear they might act irrationally during the mission," Yamato bluntly stated. Hiruzen, standing by the window, smoked his pipe in silence for a while before he spoke calmly. Naruto's the son of Minato and Kushina, and he has a strong sense of the will of fire burning within him. But this burns too bright. He must learn to control it or else he will cause more danger to himself and those around him. Yamato's eyes widened a little and he asked softly, "You intend for them to fail this mission?" Hiruzen turned around at that point and looked right into Yamato's eyes. "No. I hope they are able to temper their expectations from the world with this mission. I hope for them to be able to grow and learn what it takes to be able to maintain the peace of the village." Yamato was silent for a while as he contemplated Hiruzen's words. "I'm growing old, Yamato, I don't have much longer left. And if I don't nurture suitable successors, the village might be left unprotected during the time it needs to be saved the most. Besides, it was Tachibana-kun who brought the first report of this incident. I want him to learn that the village takes such incidents seriously." Yamato's eyes widened slightly but he quickly nodded and spoke with admiration and respect. "I will do as you say, Hokage-sama." As soon as Yamato walked out of the office room, Hiruzen waited for a few seconds and then collapsed into his chair. That was when he pulled out a smaller scroll that he had been handed over by his Anbu in the morning today. Its contents were simple and scared Hiruzen a little. He coughed a little before pressing a button on the side of his desk. There was silence in the office for a while before an Anbu member shunshined into the office. "Are you sure that was the message the daimyo sent in his latest letter to Tachibana Rei?" "Yes, Lord Hokage. The message was intercepted routinely and was checked before it was sent to the post office." I see. Keep doing the same for all his future letters as well. Let me know if there's anything else of notice in them." The Anbu member nodded but didn't leave the office. Hiruzen noticed this and looked at him with a little confusion. "Is there something else that needs to be reported?" The Anbu member was quiet for a few seconds before he spoke with some fear. "We have performed a careful inspection of the girl who hangs out with Tachibana Rei in the orphanage." "Oh, I forgot about that. Is there something important regarding the girl? Does she like him?" "Hokage-sama, we haven't been able to ascertain where the girl comes from. There are no records of her in the orphanage and neither are there any records of her entering the village. She vanishes after Tachibana returns her to the orphanage and returns when he comes back." Hiruzen's eyes narrowed. Have you interrogated the girl?" "No, Hokage-sama. It is almost as if she's a ghost. We can never find her after she finishes spending her time with Tachibana." What about the detection division in the Konoha barrier team? They can't seem to pick up on her chakra either. So she's a civilian. Are you sure she isn't disguising herself using makeup and you've just been unable to find her?" The Anbu member quickly shook their head. "We've tried employing even the Inuzuka and the Aburame in our group. But we've been unable to keep track of the girl. After Tachibana Rei leaves the orphanage she vanishes." Hiruzen felt there was something regarding this matter that he was unable to immediately notice. Why is it always Tachibana-kun?" He then looked at the Anbu again and gave him a simple command. "Tachibana Rei will go out of the village for a few days. Make sure you examine his home once he is gone and also the orphanage to see if the girl appears in the village again." "Yes, Hokage-sama. It shall be done. You may leave." Hiruzen smoked his pipe for a while as he looked at all the documents regarding Tachibana for a while but then he stuffed them into his desk and turned his attention elsewhere. After all, there were a lot more tasks that required his urgent attention. Meanwhile, in a dark underground base some distance away from the village. This is all that has been noted about Tachibana Rei in the Anbu Danzo-sama. It hasn't been updated from the last time we checked. Danzo took the scroll from the shinobi kneeling in front of him and read it quickly. Why is it so empty if Hiruzen is showing so much interest in him? Are you simply licking his boot because he is the son of the daimyo Hiruzen? Have you fallen so low? Danzo looked at the shinobi in front of him as he spoke coldly. Interfere in their next mission. I want all the details about Tachibana Rei and his abilities. As you wish, Danzo-sama. In Training Ground 7, Tachibana finally stood up and stored away his chair and book as he looked at a random tree in the distance. Naruto, You can come out, you aren't suited for stealth at all, I probably won't even be able to sleep if you keep making so much noise. Ah! A startled voice appeared from behind a tree before someone fell off a branch and onto the ground. Damn it! How did you know I was here? Naruto shouted as he quickly got up from the ground and emerged out of the trees to look at Tachibana while holding a kunai. Tachibana gave him a dead-eyed look. Sigh, weren't you listening to what I just told you? Welcome to Fanfic Audiobook, your go-to place for immersive audiobooks. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing stories. And please support the author by link in description. Naruto knew he'd have to be serious if he wanted to have any chance of taking on Tachibana, so he quickly returned to his usual enthusiasm soon after and rushed towards Tachibana, intending to engage with him in hand-to-hand combat. Not knowing what his teammates had planned for him just yet, Tachibana played along and rushed towards Naruto to meet him in combat. As soon as they were in punching distance of each other, Naruto sent a punch in Tachibana's direction, which Tachibana redirected by slapping his arm. Tachibana closed the distance between them and with a simple kick, attempted to break the bones in Naruto's chest by launching his heel into it. Naruto was quick to react and placed his palm in between them to block Tachibana's blow. But knowing that Naruto was faster than him, Tachibana planted a simple trap at the end of his kick. Just as Naruto's palm made contact with his heel, Naruto froze for a moment as he saw a burning explosive tag attached to the end of it. Tachibana capitalized on this terror and used Naruto's hands as leverage to give himself the momentum to power a back kick that was about to devastate Naruto's face. Tisk! But to his dissatisfaction, Tachibana had to abandon the attack when a flurry of shuriken and kunai were tossed in his direction. Tachiba armed himself almost immediately with two kunai and began to dodge and deflect the ones thrown at him. Tachibana noticed the wires attached to the kunai and quickly stepped away to avoid being entangled in them. But as he moved, Tachibana heard a sharp whistle from behind him. Almost instantly Tachibana ducked low to dodge the projectile that was thrown from his blind spot. Except as soon as Tachibana ducked low, he found the sound followed him lower. Genjutsu. Tachibana quickly flared up the circulation of chakra inside his body and dispelled the genjutsu, but by then Naruto was already moving away from him while Sasuke's kunai, which had wires attached to them, encircled him, ready to trap him in their midst. Tachibana grew restless. Is the only way out to teleport away? No. Tachibana thrust chakra into his feet and used the body flicker jutsu in an unorthodox position where he was almost squatting close to the ground. But instead of stepping away from the arena, Tachibana used the body flicker jutsu to empower his jump. And within the next moment, Tachibana almost flew 6 feet into the air. His jump completely cleared the height at which Sasuke had tossed his kunai. Is that all you've got? Tachibana asked with a smile as he grabbed onto the branch above his head before flipping upside down and standing on it. But when Tachibana looked around, he found his view of things skewed. Genjutsu again. Without even thinking about it, Tachibana reflexively jumped away from the tree branch he was standing on while simultaneously flaring his chakra. It was good that he did, because as soon as he did, Tachibana saw Naruto running on the tree towards him to punch his guts. Tachibana pushed away Naruto's hand in defense and engaged in an upside-down taijutsu contest with him. Tachibana wanted to get away, but Naruto kept him locked in defense, since as soon as Tachibana even showed a hint of rushing away, he would forcefully launch more punches and kicks, trying to disallow Tachibana from taking any other actions. Tachibana noticed Naruto's insistence on keeping him in the same spot, but his mind was thinking of something else. They transformed themselves to look like each other. Naruto can't be this good at taijutsu, can he? He wouldn't be able to pace a fight so well. Or did he learn something from Yamato after all? This is confusing, but I have a way to find out if he's the real Naruto after all. With how terrible you were at taijutsu, I think I'm going to become the Hokage before you, Naruto. Tachibana taunted, and Naruto almost got distracted for a second. But he managed to recover before shouting, "That was underhanded, Tachibana-kun. Fight me fair if you want me to respect you as a man. He's the real one, alright. Apart from his voice, his response matches as well. But he's gotten so good. Knowing that Sasuke and Sakura were cooking up something to deal with him, Tachibana tensed his nerves but didn't disengage with Naruto. He was betting on the possibility that he could find a way to react to their surprise attack in time by teleporting away using a flame. I have set up several safe spots after all. So unless they have a way to stop me from teleporting away, I don't think they can beat me. But it doesn't hurt to have one more backup. Tachibana stopped sticking to the underside of the branch and dropped down from the tree, following which Naruto did the same thing to keep up with him. But Tachibana's plan hadn't ended there. As soon as Tachibana got onto the forest floor, he tossed on the ground a simple smoke bomb. VVVOOOOSSSSSSSSSHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHThe smoke bomb worked flawlessly and covered the entire surroundings in dense white smoke, hiding all of Tachibana's moves inside it, but Naruto smiled when he saw it. Wind release. Breakthrough. A sudden gust of wind encroached on the area and puffered away the dense smoke that had been hiding Tachibana's actions. Haha, Tachibana-kun. A smoke bomb won't work on me anymore, Naruto said as he saw Tachibana had taken out several kunai with explosive tags attached to it. Tachibana looked annoyed that his planning was caught, but internally he was rejoicing. Lol. He totally didn't notice what I just did. I just hope Sasuke wasn't paying attention to me with his Sharingan. Tachibana pretended that he was caught yet threw the kunai in his hands at Naruto, who panicked when he saw that the explosive tags were lit. Tachibana-kun. This is a friendly spar. Why are you trying to kill me? Tachibana smiled and then spoke softly, Naruto-kun. Take responsibility for your actions. If you wouldn't have uncovered my plan, I would have left you alive. But now you must die. Having dealt with Tachibana throwing kunai with explosive tags attached before, the rest of Team 7 had developed a strategy to save themselves in case that happened again. And so Naruto tossed his own kunai and shuriken at Tachibana's to divert them from their natural trajectory. Boom mm. Several explosions lined the forest, but even before the dust settled, Sasuke and Naruto appeared from beside Tachibana with kunai in their hands. Tachibana ducked low to dodge Naruto's kunai, but Sasuke's kunai didn't aim for his head. Instead, it aimed to show Tachibana a reflection of his own eyes that had the Sharingan activated. Tachibana's pupils dilated as he immediately jabbed the kunai in his hand into Sasuke, going for a killing move directly so that he wouldn't have to waste time trying to break out of the genjutsu. But it was already too late. Tachibana's kunai passed straight through Sasuke's head. Yet, Tachibana was laughing mentally. Is this all? They thought I wouldn't have made a counter against falling into a genjutsu from the Sharingan. Lol. Fools. Being completely blinded, Tachibana had no other recourse other than fight based on sounds and feelings. Of course, Tachibana in a real combat situation would simply use spirit vision to bypass all the genjutsu, but he couldn't do that in a situation where Yamato was monitoring their fight, even if it was just a wood clone. It would be near impossible to explain how he knew exactly where his teammates were attacking from if that was the case. To completely abandon his vision, Tachibana straight up closed his eyes and paid attention to all the sounds he was hearing. To my left, Tachibana noticed as he heard a soft ruffling of clothes. Before the sound vanished or stopped, Tachibana threw 3 shuriken in the general direction to attack whatever was hiding there. But before he could confirm if the distant target had been hit, Tachibana was forced to dodge 2 punches that were aimed right at his head. But Tachibana cleverly stepped closer to the source of the 2 punches, making them miss him narrowly as they slipped past his cheeks. Yet in that moment, Tachibana didn't just feel satisfied with dodging the punches, he retaliated with his own fists, slamming them forward to the spot where he expected Naruto and Sasuke's bodies to be. In the real world, while Tachibana was fighting, the ghost Sasuke was showing him. Team 7 surrounded Tachibana fully. Are you sure this will work, Sasuke? Naruto asked softly, whispering to make sure that his loud voice wouldn't wake Tachibana up. Sasuke's spinning Tomo were focused on showing Tachibana exactly what he wanted him to see, hear and feel, so he simply grunted. Leaving Sakura to speak calmly. Naruto-kun, let's stick to the plan. We must not let him teleport, or all our planning to get to this point would be in vain. Naruto nodded in agreement. Tachibana-kun, now I will pay you back for all those times you beat me up. The trio of Team 7 rushed towards Tachibana at full speed. Naruto had his hand cocked back for a punch. Sasuke was focusing on maintaining his genjutsu over Tachibana so that he wouldn't break out of it by teleport away. While Sakura ran towards Tachibana while holding a kunai in reverse grip. Each had their utmost focus on Tachibana, which is why they missed the subtle *sishing * of the ground underneath them. Inside the illusory world that Sasuke had created, Tachibana stopped moving and then smiled. The illusory Team 7 quickly tried taking the advantage and pushed Tachibana by attacking with their kunai. But Tachibana's next words froze them all. Isn't this enough, Sasuke-kun? The minute Tachibana said that, Sasuke froze for a second, but then he smiled and spoke calmly. You're too late. We've already surrounded you and are about to stab you. You're wrong. Huh? What do you mean? I planted a trap when I used that smoke grenade, you see. Trap. But there are no explosive seals on the floor. At least none that have been primed with chakra and are about to explode. I checked thoroughly. It wouldn't be a trap if it was so simple to detect, now would it? Tachibana said with a laugh and finally opened his eyes to look at the genjutsu Sasuke. I will see you in the real world then. This time I managed to improve enough to not even have to use my teleportation jutsu to have to defeat you. He, aren't I the prodigy then? Wah. Sasuke was about to ask Tachibana a question in the genjutsu world, but in the real world, Sakura shouted. Sasuke-kun. Naruto-kun. Run away. Sakura was the first to notice the single explosive seal that had been imprinted directly into the ground under Tachibana. She was quick to realize what was going to happen and forcibly stopped her momentum towards Tachibana, but it was too late. Naruto and Sasuke only noticed the single explosive seal and didn't take Sakura's warning seriously. It's only a single explosive seal, what's got her so worried? Seriously, Sakura-chan, it's just a single seal, why are you so worried? But that was when, under the shocked gazes of Naruto and Sasuke, the ignition of the single seal under Tachibana's legs flooded outwards. In a moment an entire circle covering all of Team 7 lit up with several explosive seals. Tachibana had worked hard while the smoke bomb had gone off to use his legs to draw out several explosive seals wherever he had stepped. Hence the entirety of Team 7 was currently surrounded by these explosive tags, and almost instantly they all noticed the ground sizzling. Naruto's face paled. Sasuke looked like he'd eaten rotting meat. While Sakura was beyond terrified. All they heard before the explosion was, hey, I hope I see you again in our next life. The line sent shivers down their spine and they almost coughed up their souls because of how scared they were feeling seeing the number of explosive tags on the ground. A fiery pillar rose into the sky and shook the ground with a slight rumble. Nearly all the Jonin in the village looked towards Training Ground 7, wondering what sort of jutsu its inhabitants were practicing to create such a large tremor. Hiruzen in his office also looked at the training ground and because of the height of his office, saw a large fiery pillar. Tachibana-kun is growing stronger. Well, as long as I praise him appropriately he should be obedient. If he ever thinks of doing something else I could always send him to Danzo. This next mission should also show if Tachibana-kun is going to be a good friend for Naruto-kun. The explosion soon died away and Tachibana emerged out of its embers completely unharmed, even though he was just engulfed by it moments earlier. The trio of Team 7, Sasuke, Naruto and Sakura were all hidden behind a large wooden dome that Yamato's clone had constructed. Ah, you ran away to mommy, how cute. Tachibana teased when Yamato made a small door for them all to come out. Naruto was downright furious. Tachibana-kun, I thought we were friends. Why are you trying to kill me? Because I don't want anyone else to kill you. Tachibana reasoned randomly, and just when Naruto was about to feel happy that Tachibana cared about him in some random far-fetched way, Tachibana added. Only friends are allowed to kill each other for growing stronger. Haven't you heard about the power of friendship? Naruto almost coughed blood when he heard that. Sasuke on the other hand asked calmly, how did you know you were trapped in my Sharingan genjutsu even when you closed your eyes and I manipulated you by sound? Because you didn't match my explosive tags I prepared on the ground. I can easily tell where they're placed because they use my chakra. Finally, Sakura spoke accusingly. That was overboard. Tachibana simply smiled and spoke softly, when I was in the fire, I saw, someone was clinging onto Sass. Before Tachibana could say a word more, Sakura almost teleported behind him and pressed her hand on his mouth. You will not say anything else? Sakura whispered threateningly. Haha, fine. Tachibana nodded. Alright you all, that's enough training for today. Yamato said calmly while dispelling his wood clone. Yae. Naruto was the only one who shouted enthusiastically. I have some news. Yamato spoke calmly, grabbing the attention of all the genin. We will be going on a new mission tomorrow morning. So pack up and be ready. Don't be late. Yamato said that and shunshined away, leaving the tired genin to go back home and rest for the night. Arriving home, Tachibana found the letter that his dad and mom had written to him for this week. He set it aside to read it later and first took a shower so that he could refresh himself after the spar. Once he was done, Tachibana cooked a bowl of instant ramen and sat down with the letter. Dear son, I hope this letter reaches you in the best of health. Mom is fine, she's just lost a little weight worrying about you since you haven't visited us in a long time. I was surprised that your name came up during my meeting with the Land of Iron Daimyo. Color me surprised when I heard that you were the one who stopped the group of Rouge Samurai who escaped the Land of Iron to harm innocent people in the Land of Fire. Tachibana frowned when he read the letter since this meant that the matter had grown beyond the village and the mission he had completed. While he had expected other shinobi to take up the mission to rescue the other children who had already been sold away and couldn't be rescued in time, this meant that those children hadn't been rescued yet. Troublesome. Is he hinting at me wanting to learn more about this situation? So basically he wants me to participate in the mission relating to rescuing the missing children. But why did the mission become so important all of a sudden? I doubt this mission is going to end up with anything pleasant. Tachibana continued reading the letter. I would praise you to tell you good job, but your mother has me worried, especially since you didn't mention much about killing someone, so as the daimyo, I order you to inform us about everything that happens in those missions. I hope you are able to complete this mission successfully so that your mother can reward you and your team. I wish you luck. Tachibana was about to stop there, but then he noticed the small writing at the bottom corner of the page. P.S. Please keep your explanations about your missions to a minimum, your mom will only get more worried if you are detailed. You're doing a good job, I hope I see you soon since I've been missing you a little too. Tachibana's eyes teared up a little since although they weren't his real parents, they had been the first people to handle him after he was brought into this world. I wouldn't love to be squished by her, but it's not like I hate her or something, and I miss Tora too, the damn cat was the only thing that kept me sane earlier. But this mission, it's going to be a tough one, isn't it? I wonder why everyone wants to complete this mission so quickly. Tachibana tossed the letter aside and collapsed in his bed. He wondered about random things for a few minutes like, if the moon in this world was created by mortals, did this planet not have tides before? And things like, can I talk to Kagaya in some way? What about Hagoromo? Can I use the messenger summoning ritual to summon them somehow? Kagaya probably won't respond since she is not in Pure World, but Hagoromo. Where's that bastard who is depending on the pure ball of sunlight 1,000 years into the future to change the planet? System. Is it possible to communicate with Hashirama using the contract? The system must inform the host that it does not know everything about this world, and so it can only say that if Hashirama is still alive he cannot be contacted by the messenger summoning ritual. Closing square bracket. Got it. Not an omnipotent system. Would be nice if I had erodes in this world. System, what mission do I need to do to get erodes as a reward? According to the system's calculations, if the host is able to save a country, then the host can get the special mirror erodes as a reward. Closing square bracket. A country? Seriously? Wouldn't that just be saving the village from pain or something? That's long. The system must remind the host that there are no shortcuts to power. Closing square bracket. Says the thing that is literally a shortcut itself. Do I get any rewards from the mission last time? The Land of Snow 1. The host has already been granted that reward. Closing square bracket. What was it? How come I don't know about it? The messenger contracting ritual would not have allowed the host to learn from his messengers. It has been modified to help the host better. Closing square bracket. I see, that's helpful. Anyway, what rewards will my next mission get me? Since the system does not know what is going on, the system cannot perfectly evaluate an appropriate reward, but studying the lines of fate, the system comes to the conclusion that if the host can do the most damage to his opponent he can get the Saphira Castle in return. I see. Wait, what? The Saphira Castle? Tachibana shouted out loud. Yes, the host heard correctly. The host will be rewarded with the Saphira Castle if he deals the maximum amount of damage to his opponent. FAQ. Who exactly is my opponent going to be that if I simply damage them enough I'll be given the Saphira Castle? But, if I have the Saphira Castle, I won't really be able to do much anyway. I mean, Klein did have a legit reason for using the castle. It was to collect Russell's papers and learn more about the world he was in. But me? What will I do? It's not like my divinations will get any better since there are no anti-divination techniques in this world anyway. Now that I think about it, I could use the Saphira Castle to create my own secret village. But to do what? I don't want to do something as grand as ridding the world of all evil, or I will become the great emperor. If the host allows, the system has a fantastic suggestion for him. Closing square bracket. Oh, sure, let's hear it. If the host decides to, he can set up an organization of elite people to keep track of the villain that killed the host in the future. Closing square bracket. Tachibana looked at the message and then with a frown on his face thought for a while about it. Well, I don't really want to reveal information about someone betraying me and capturing me to the world. What's to say that by revealing such information I won't cause someone to betray me in the first place? Tachibana thought about it before pulling out his trusted pendulum and performing a divination. It will be good for me to set up a secret organization that will help me bide my time and gain power to fight against the person who will betray me. Tachibana repeated the statement 7 times before opening his eyes and looking at the result. The pendulum is spinning clockwise. Interesting. Then I have to do my best in this mission then. Let's start by figuring out who I'm up against. Dad wouldn't have sent me the letter in such a blatantly open way if he wasn't hinting something with it. He has spoken about this matter with the Land of Iron Daimyo, that means he wants them to get involved in this incident. Yes, even if they brought up the matter with him, as long as he wanted, he could have put a stop to their requests and simply assigned the mission to Konoha. In fact, that is what he should have probably done. But the fact that he doesn't want Konoha to get involved means is probably why he sent me the letter. Because this would force the Hokage, who has probably already read the letter, to give me the mission, since otherwise he would be butting his head in a private matter that only the 2 daimyo are talking about privately. So is there a reason he doesn't want to involve Konoha? And wants me to participate since I'm more loyal to him than Konoha? Kidnapping children. Orochimaru and Danzo. Did they take the children for some other experiment of theirs? If I had any items from the children who were sold away, I could divine their locations and also who could have bought them. There's no way I'm going to be doing any significant damage to Orochimaru given I don't know how many people have his cursed mark and soul, and Danzo, well, I don't even know how to even get close enough to him to damage him. Tachibana sat with a frown for a while as he thought about the various ways he might try and kill either of them, but then an idea struck him. System, does being the cause of my enemy's downfall count as dealing maximum damage? Yes, as long as whatever the hostess qualifies as damaging the enemy, by leaving them in a much worse state than previously planned, it will be accepted to complete the mission. Closing square bracket. I see. So that leaves me with a lot of ways I could try and plan to cause my enemy's downfall. I can cause financial ruin, loss of reputation, loss of life, loss of power, loss of motivation. Orochimaru probably wouldn't care about reputation, but Danzo would since he is an elder in the village. But I don't exactly know how reputable he is first of all. I can ask Mito that, right? Performing the summoning ritual, Tachibana looked at Mito and quickly asked her his question. Mito Boss-san, was Danzo's reputation good when you were alive? Would he care if his reputation took a sudden nosedive all of a sudden? Mito looked at Tachibana with a strange expression as she wondered out loud, what are you planning now? You're too weak to do anything right now. Just because I taught you the mind partition jutsu doesn't mean you can beat up whoever you don't like. Yes, I get that, but would it affect him? Mito looked at Tachibana for a few seconds, but seeing his unrelenting gaze she acquiesced. Danzo used to care about his reputation quite a bit. He used to want to be the next Hokage after Hiruzen. And without being a respected shinobi, people would never accept him as one. I see, I should have guessed that. Thanks Mito Boss-san. Tachibana nodded and went back to thinking while Mito hung around and tried to figure out what Tachibana was doing. If it is Danzo, I already know the location of his secret base which I divined back when children from the orphanage went missing. It's probably only one of his bases, so I need to find out the locations of more of them. Then I could damage his bases and simultaneously expose the fact that Danzo is trying to capture children from the Fire Nation for experimentations. But how do I leak this information without letting anyone else know that I was the one who did all of this? Since as long as there isn't a clear suspicion on someone else, it will cause Hiruzen to look at Team 7 who is assigned this mission, which involves me. It wouldn't take them long to blame someone on our team using the transformation jutsu to spread around the information. I'm sure as the information is being spread, the Anbu en route will try to do their best to capture the person doing so, and once they get a hang of it they'll quickly figure out who is responsible for it all. So I need to always have a solid alibi and not be seen doing anything suspicious or missing during the time the information is spread around. Tachibana pondered on the question for a few seconds before his gaze fell on the old lady who looking at him. No, Mito said almost immediately. I didn't even say any. This ain't the first time I'm raising kids, you little boy. Tsunade had the same expression when she asked me for money after I banned her from gambling. Tachibana frowned at being called little, but this wasn't the time for arguing, nor was it time for doing anything else. It was time to persuade someone of great importance to his plan. Listen to me once. Maybe you'll change your mind. I mean, what I'm planning is for the benefit of Konoha after all. Please see, OHW Poeti please. Mito looked disgusted at Tachibana's expression and out of a sense of revulsion nodded so that he would make his face normal. What is it about? I mean, I have this plan. We'll be here until the next fortnight if you keep speaking so slowly. I mean, I have this plan where I will defame Danzo. And you think that is for the betterment of the village? Disrespecting an honorary elder who advises the Hokage. Do you want all the shinobi in the village to think all in the top brass are corrupt and incompetent? Well, it doesn't quite sell well if you put it that way, but is the will of fire important, or something? I mean, if we get rid of the corrupt top brass, we can grow more leaves on the tree to burn in fire, can't we? Mito's expression twitched a little before she spoke calmly and with seriousness. You don't even know what the will of the fire means. Don't talk about randomly trying to set fire to the beginnings of a coup. What is the will of fire if not sacrificing the leaves so that the village grows strong? Tachibana tried to argue, but Mito's eyes dangerously narrowed. Just because there are a few people that aren't great in the village, it doesn't mean that everyone in the village is like them. A village comes together only when people are sick and tired of continuously losing people close to them. They're tired of seeing their children die before them, and they're tired of seeing their hands stained by the blood of children they kill. A village's borders aren't the stone walls you see out there. The real walls that protect you from danger are the bodies out there that fight in spite of having lost their heads. Just because they don't want their loved ones to see a place without such borders. Tachibana frowned as he heard this. And yet you send kids into the same war. The same kids are even being experimented on. One of them had to kill his entire clan because of these few people. Who are you protecting? What are you protecting even? A figment of your imagination. Tachibana's words seemed to have struck something deep in Mito because her eyes momentarily turned red and her lips quivered, yet she spoke with the elegance of a refined lady. A village can't form overnight. That figment of imagination that we protect takes years of sacrifices and violence to perfect. If it was something anyone could achieve by snapping their fingers, the world would have been a much better place. Unless you can make the lives of the people around us better, there is no reason I should help you drag the village a few steps back for no reason other than for the betterment of the village. Tachibana's frown deepened, but then he sighed and spoke softly. Each longest jump can only be made to the best of one's abilities if one takes a few steps back for a quick run. Tachibana and Mito looked into each other's eyes before. Tachibana spoke calmly. Look, here's the thing, I can promise you that Danzo doesn't have long to live anyway. The old man's eventually going to be killed by a Rouge Uchiha whose entire clan was killed mostly because of his schemes and distrust. But Mito shook her head. I don't believe that the Uchiha had no fault in getting killed. Perhaps the village was faulty in pushing them into a corner, but I don't believe for 1 second that the Uchiha weren't responsible for their own annihilation too. Seriously, do you think the Uchiha wanted to die silently? They didn't even attempt to fight off their killer in the end. They died silently, not even making a sound. Mito's eyes narrowed, but then she smirked and spoke calmly. I bet you didn't know Fugaku could use his Sharingan to quell any rebellion, didn't you? Tachibana's mouth hung a little loose because of this new information, since Mito was hinting that Fugaku simply hypnotized the entire clan to get them killed, but then he argued again. Either way, the point remains that even in the most extreme situation, the Uchiha chose to die peacefully instead of rebel. And that's not even my point. My point is that Danzo doesn't have long to live, so killing him a few years earlier will do no harm. In fact, it will only make the village stronger and more prepared for what's to come. I bet you didn't know that Madara secured a way for himself to be revived, did you? He even has a grand plan to achieve world peace by trapping everyone else in a large-scale unbreakable genjutsu. Mito's eyes narrowed when Tachibana said that as she looked at him with some suspicion. Uchiha Madara. Tachibana nodded. He set up an organization which is after capturing the tailed beasts and sealing them into the husk of the 10 tails, reviving it and becoming its Jinchuriki so that he will become the strongest. Then he'll sprout a massive tree, and when its flower blooms he'll use its connection to the moon to send everyone into an unbreakable genjutsu where everything they could ever want will happen. That sounds fantastical and makes little to no sense. Tachibana sighed and shook his head. Fine. Alright. I get it. You don't want to help me. Tachibana was about to wave away Mito and send her back to the spirit world, but her next words stopped him. I'll help. Huh. Tachibana was a little shocked and confused. The hell? Weren't you against doing anything? Mito shook her head. Even if I don't want to, I'm sure you'll do something anyway. So I want to interfere so that you don't do anything that affects the stability of the village. Simply killing an elder of the village will expose it to the fangs and claws of those waiting to grab a bite. Tachibana's eyes widened, but then they immediately narrowed. And how am I to believe that you'll even do anything I ask you to? What's to say you just agree while you are with me, and then when the opportune moment has passed you just carelessly forget? Mito shook her head and then looked at Tachibana like he was dumber than a brick. The contract. Ah, yes, we can use the optional clauses. Tachibana nodded as he suddenly remembered the contract. What do you want in exchange? Mito was silent for a few seconds before speaking after some thought. I want to be able to talk to one person of my choice and be able to freely tell them anything without being restricted by you or whatever that strange force is that protects you. Tachibana instantly shook his head. No way. There are too many risks involving that. The only reason I trust you so much right now is because you can't say anything of what I say to another person. And I've always spoken to you with that in mind. Mito nodded in understanding before modifying her terms a little. How about this instead? I can talk to one other person specifically and tell them whatever I want to, but for as long as I talk to them, I won't have any memories of us together. Tachibana frowned when he heard this. Although there isn't any real way for her to harm me like this, she could always just memorize her instructions she wants to tell someone else and then tell them whatever she memorized. I will agree on one condition, Tachibana said, causing Mito to look at him with a questioning gaze. As long as you promise me not to use that conversation to do anything against me or my interests. Mito frowned, but then after some thought she spoke softly, then I have another condition to add. Tachibana nodded to hear it out and Mito said, I want to be able to experiment and understand how the contract that binds us is made, and I want to reject killing someone as long as I don't want them to die. Tachibana's eyes deadpanned. Isn't this the same as telling me that she won't kill Danzo? Well, no matter if I'm able to get her to kill him or not, I can still cause a lot of damage to him as long as Mito helps me. The real trouble is the first part of her request. So, Tachibana asked the system a question. Will she be able to annul our contract if she understands how it was made? No, the host need not even worry about Mito being able to understand the contract. Although the contract is a piece of paper with rules, it is upheld and kept by the system. Without the system, the contract is a meaningless piece of paper. Closing square bracket. I see. Tachibana nodded and then spoke to Mito. All right, I agree to your terms and conditions as long as you agree to mine. Do you? Mito nodded. I pledge to do exactly as you say unless it is about killing someone. In such a case I reserve the right to make my own judgment. I'm not a tool for you to order around. Sure. Whatever lets you sleep in the night. Tachibana said, raising his hands, and then quickly looked at her before asking. So here's my plan, can you do it? Tachibana asked as he continued to explain to Mito his entire plan and what expected her to do. You don't even know yet if it's him. Mito said indignantly while putting her hands on her waist and looking down at Tachibana with a frown. I mean, it's either him or his company conspirator. No one else would dare to experiment with the Land of Fire's kids under Konoha's nose except them. Mito wasn't convinced, but Tachibana wasn't disappointed since he knew that when they'd investigate the case, the leads would eventually point at either of them. Do you have any ideas for me to improve the plan? Tachibana asked Mito since she was probably a lot more experienced than him in this field. Why do you want me to disguise myself as the girl from the orphanage? Wouldn't it be better if I disguised as someone else? That wouldn't bring any suspicion towards you. Tachibana smiled and then softly explained, no. I want to leave that connection still. I have a plan. It is getting rather annoying to tell people about the future I know about and then have them disregard me meaninglessly. As long as I show them I can communicate with ghosts, like the little girl who is going to take revenge on Danzo because he captures and experiments on children of the village, that should make them believe me more. That way I can change more. Mito frowned since to her it seemed more like Tachibana was cooking up a scheme to control the village in secret. To her, he still seemed just as evil as those he was fighting against. She could feel his reasons for fighting Danzo weren't righteous. His eyes didn't burn with the fire of justice she had seen in several other shinobi around her and especially in her husband. So it left her feeling a little strange. Although the boy isn't outright evil, he isn't a shining star of justice either. What had Mito the most worried was that the boy could be misled down a path that would turn him against the world. But knowing that she'd already promised a contract, she couldn't back down. Especially not when she had her own plan to warn others about him. But it would take a while for her to be able to use her wish. At the earliest, it would probably be after the Chunin exams if Tachibana's words regarding the future were to be believed. Sigh, this child, he's too dangerous, but he doesn't do anything stupid with his abilities, at least he hasn't yet. I need to watch him more closely to be able to form a decent opinion about him. The upcoming mission should give me a chance to learn more. He's too mysterious. Unknowingly to Mito and Tachibana, they hadn't realized that Mito was slowly becoming an important figure in Tachibana's life and Tachibana in hers. Although both were opposed to each other's ideas, they did compromise to work together towards a common goal. The members of the Genin team were all waiting patiently at the gate of the village. Sakura was looking at Sasuke, while Sasuke was trying his best to look at the random tree outside the village. Naruto was lost in his own world. Their peaceful harmony was suddenly disturbed when they saw Tachibana arrive near them. What happened, Tachibana-kun? Naruto asked, coming closer to his friend since Tachibana appeared to be crying. Tachibana's red eyes looked at Naruto for a bit and he hesitated to speak further, but in the end, he chose to say nothing and shook his head. Come on, Tachibana-kun. Maybe I can help you. Is it because a girl rejected you? Don't worry. Sakura-chan rejected me multiple times too. I know though that she'll accept eventually. You just haven't tried hard enough. Believe it. Internally Tachibana was dumbfounded and externally he was trying to slowly distance himself from Naruto since Sakura had heard exactly what he'd said and was cocking her hands as if she wanted to punch through his head. But taking a deep breath by venting her displeasure using inner Sakura, she walked closer to Tachibana and asked him the same question Naruto did in a more friendly way. Did something happen, Tachibana-kun? Do you need help? Is it something related to money perhaps? We can all chip in if that's the case. Tachibana looked at Sakura for a few seconds and was about to speak, but Yamato suddenly appeared behind everyone. His sudden appearance brought silence to the group and then everyone realized that Tachibana no longer wanted to speak, so they turned to look at Yamato with a glare. Huh? What happened? Why are you glaring at me? What did I do? Yamato asked with a little panic. Everyone looked at Tachibana, then at Yamato and then back at Tachibana again. Tachibana just wiped his eyes and spoke softly, You didn't do anything wrong, Yamato-sensei, they're just playing with you. Yamato finally got a clear view of Tachibana's face and was about to ask if he was alright, but Tachibana answered first. Nothing happened. I'm alright. I just had to say goodbye to a friend of mine. Tachibana had staged a scenario early in the morning where he visited the orphanage and spoke to Mito, who was disguised as a girl, on the roof of the orphanage. Tachibana had prepared and performed a simple play with Mito on the rooftop, which was basically, Tachibana-kun, I'm so sorry, I will not be able to meet you again. Mito said while staring at the rising sun. No. Where are you going? Tachibana asked with worry and tears in his eyes. I'm sorry, Tachibana-kun, I cannot say. But I'm sure we'll meet again someday. I thank you for coming to the orphanage and meeting the children and entertaining them each day you are in the village. The children have been much happier when you've been around. Thank you. After those words, Mito vanished slowly while glowing like an angel, leaving a crying Tachibana behind. Of course, the Anbu reported all the events to Hiruzen, but seeing Tachibana crying so much, and his rush to pack up for a mission, Hiruzen refrained from approaching Tachibana just yet since Tachibana's sanity looked like it was hanging by a thread. A thorough understanding of the situation would help him prepare to talk to Tachibana-kun about the strange incident better. The news had left him with a little worry in his heart but kept it to himself since Yamato was going to be around Tachibana and would be able to keep a watch on him for now. With the first steps of his plan spinning into motion, Tachibana thought back to Mito's acting. She's damn good. Why doesn't she just become an actress instead of bugging me all day long to improve my sealing skills? Oh. That's right. She's dead. Well, whatever. Are you sure you're alright, Tachibana-kun? Yamato asked politely without intruding too much. Yes, sensei, you don't need to worry. I will be able to handle myself. Tachibana nodded with confidence, but he was still trembling a little to show how vulnerable he was. Yamato nodded, and that was their signal to quickly set off behind him as they moved through the trees using the body flicker jutsu. Rushing through the trees, Tachibana eventually recognized the route they were taking, and his guess was further confirmed when they arrived at a village that Tachibana had already been in once. Tachibana was about to speak, but his emotions remained stuck in his throat. This was his first mission outside the village and the first mission in which he'd killed someone. Yes, it is the mission about the missing children. Yamato finished, knowing that Tachibana knew about it. But, why are we here? Tachibana asked, knowing that they would likely have to cooperate with another team from the Land of Iron since the daimyos of both nations were discussing it. I can't see anyone else here. Why exactly did Yamato-sensei bring us here? Is it so that the rest of Team 7 can talk to the village chief? As they moved closer to the village entrance, Tachibana noticed that the village guard was the same one he had seen earlier. The guard seemed to have recognized him too, since as soon as the man saw Tachibana he relaxed his grip on the spear he was carrying and spoke to Tachibana without asking for his identification. "How have you been, young man?" the guard asked politely. Tachibana nodded with a smile and spoke softly, "I'm all right. Are the kids doing better?" "Yes. No one else has gone missing as of late." But Tachibana realized what the man wanted to say, so he spoke in a promising tone, "Don't worry about it. We'll get them back. My team's really strong, you know." Naruto, hearing this, lifted his arms up and shouted, "Yeah. I can do a wind jutsu too." Sakura and Sasuke were embarrassed by Naruto's enthusiastic expression but raised their chins with a little pride nonetheless. The guard nodded with a smile and said, "I'm glad. I hope you can help the village chief. He's been worried." Tachibana nodded and the group walked into the village with Yamato leading the way. "You've been to this village before, Tachibana-kun?" Sakura asked. "Yes. Their children were kidnapped and sold away by samurai from the Land of Iron. Turns out they were rebels and they wanted to earn money quickly, so they went around stealing a bunch of kids from various villages, and this village was caught up. Then you found all the kids back and helped them return to the village?" Naruto asked with his eyes shining. Tachibana smiled wryly but then shook his head. "Not exactly. While we found 5 kids, 10 others were already sold away." Team 7's eyes widened and Yamato spoke softly while the villagers passing by all looked at Tachibana and greeted him with their smiles. Several kids pointed at him and waved at him too, but they were too afraid of the other shinobi to outright rush at him. "Our mission today is to help the village retrieve all the 10 other children. We will start from the basics by collecting any pictures or methods we can use to identify the kids." Tachibana finally got his answer as to why they were here, and all of Team 7 firmed their resolves and looked ahead with a determined gaze. "Yosh!" Naruto shouted, pumping their moods even higher. Tachibana remained the only one who was wondering how Yamato would react when it was revealed that the enemies were Danzo or Orochimaru. He has worked under both of them, so he probably has a guess for as to why this all happened. Yet he's taken this mission. Did Hiruzen assign it to him so that Naruto and Sasuke wouldn't be swayed by Danzo? I wonder what Yamato's stance on the matter will be. Will he stop them from discovering the details or will he assist them? Interesting. I just hope my plan works out fine. Meeting the village chief was better this time since he recognized Tachibana too and trusted him because he'd helped them last time. Naruto was his usual enthusiastic self while Sasuke and Sakura remained silent, and soon after they finished talking to the village head, they gathered information from him about the rest of the kids. "Thank you for helping us out again, Tachibana-kun. Please don't bow your head, and don't worry, my team's the best." The village chief nodded and then split off from them at the village entrance, leaving the group to discuss how they were going to target finding a solution to the mission. "What do you think? Where should we go?" Yamato asked softly as the genin had all huddled around him to look at the documents about the dealing of the samurai when they were in the Land of Fire. Sakura was the first to speak. "We can try finding out where their dealer is in the black market. We know his moniker and the town in which the samurai did their dealings, so it shouldn't be hard for us to find out where he lives." Yamato nodded and Tachibana added on after that. "We could also contact him by posing as Rouge Ninja ourselves. Trying to Sell goods to him that we've acquired for money. This would make him trust us more. Yamato looked at Tachibana with a little amusement but nodded eventually. Alright, let's go with that. As for gaining further information that will be left to Sasuke-kun, you'll infiltrate his business after we figure out where it is located. Sasuke nodded with firm eyes and Yamato looked at Naruto who was looking around with confusion. Whose children will we capture to sell? Naruto wondered. I guess we can return them once we finish the mission, but will anyone really come along? I know how I can make them follow us. I will tell them that the mission is being led by me. Of course, they'll want to join a mission led by a future Hokage. Snapping Naruto out of his genius thoughts was Yamato who placed his hand on him and spoke kindly. Naruto-kun, you will be the child we sell. Naruto was confused for a second before his eyes widened in shock. He quickly looked around at Tachibana, Sakura and Sasuke but found all of them looking at him with kind smiles. I was betrayed. Don't worry Naruto, just think of it as a mission to infiltrate the place where the handler takes all the kids to. There'll be several children to save for you. Think about how happy they'll feel that the future Hokage is saving them. Tachibana consoled and it was super effective. Naruto's eyes turned into stars as he started dreaming while everyone else was dumbfounded. Yamato coughed awkwardly before informing the team of their next destination. We'll be leaving to go to Tanzaku quarters. It's a town prevalent in the three sins, gambling, alcohol and women. So I need the four of you to keep close to me all the time. Wasn't that the same place Tsunade was in after the Chunin exam arc? Seriously sensei, do you think any place will serve us alcohol? Tachibana asked as a joke. Yamato simply smiled and shook his head before they all left for the nearby town of Tanzaku quarters. Meanwhile, back in Konoha, an unassuming young girl appeared on the roof of one of its many orphanages. Several Anbu spotted the girl since they were on the lookout for her but quickly noticed the difference in her appearance. Her eye whites had vanished and had turned black and as deep as the abyss. Looking into them gave one the feeling that they were going to fall deep into them and their souls would never be allowed to escape. The little girl stood still for a while before looking around at the Anbu members one by one. Her motions were slow and deliberate, as her neck snapped from one Anbu personnel to the next. The Anbu all felt a shiver run down their spine but the girl calmly smiled. Except the smile didn't stop at the edge of her lips. The girl's cheek tore open and slowly her smile spread from ear to ear as her jaw hung a little loose to show all her teeth. The Anbu that were simply terrified before were now frozen stiff. But before they could do anything or retaliate in any manner, there was a soft wind that rustled the leaves of the trees they were hiding in and caused them to lose sight of the little girl wearing the simple dress. The Anbu broke out of their reverie and quickly rushed towards the Hokage office to report exactly what they had seen to the Hokage. They all felt like something terrible was going to happen, but they couldn't understand what. The little girl's powers were beyond their comprehension and they all turned towards the Hokage, hoping he could calm their apprehension. Hiruzen's hair stood on the back of his neck as he heard the news. He was internally frowning but externally he remained calm and looked on at the Anbu kneeling in front of him with a calm smile. As the little girl like the spirit attached to the Kurama clan's girl. A malevolent spirit that harbors negative intentions towards the village. How difficult. We need to ascertain its abilities quickly and find out what it aims to do. From its conversation with Tachibana, it can be assured that it is going to do something that will leave it to die since it said it could no longer meet him. How troublesome. Meanwhile, in Tanzaku quarters, Tsunade was intently looking at the spinning dials of the machine in front of her. Tsunade-sama, please don't gamble anymore. We've spent nearly all the money I gathered from doing missions in the black market and healing nobles for a month in just a day. You don't get it, Shizune. It's go big or go home. And I have a good feeling. I'm sure we will win. Tsunade's eyes were glued to the dials while Shizune tried pulling the woman away irrespective of the fact that the coin machine was still spinning. She knew that if she allowed her sensei to stay there they would only leave when all their money was finished. But suddenly they both heard a click from the machine. The first slot had stopped spinning and landed on the number 7. Shizune. It's a 7. We're going to win this one for sure. Shizune's grip loosened a little, maybe Sensei's luck has finally really turned around. Tsunade leaned in closer to the machine and those who heard her shout also all gathered to stand behind her. Soon they heard a second click. This time the click felt much louder and bolder because everyone had turned silent as they waited for the last slot with bated breath. See that, Shizune? Tsunade spoke in barely above a whisper. We're going to be rich. Everyone else was suddenly more invested in the lottery too. Some people prayed to be able to see the legendary jackpot, while others prayed for Tsunade to fail because if they couldn't have the money, no one could. And finally, there was a third click. This one was the loudest of them all as there was a deafening silence for a few seconds before everyone shouted. Asterisk. Tsunade-sama, you won the jackpot. Shizune shouted while Tsunade, who was drunk. Even the pig standing at Shizune's feet cheered, oink. Oink. Asterisk. But Tsunade was looking at the jackpot with wide eyes. She was sobering up quickly as several tickets flooded out of the machine, tickets that could be used to gain money from the casino. I won. Tsunade screamed in her mind. A sudden unscratchable itch had formed on her neck and she suddenly felt like she was sitting on a bed of thorns. How did I win? Tachibana occasionally used spirit vision to keep himself aware of all living things in the surroundings since he didn't trust any mission related to Danzo or Orochimaru to go smoothly. And to his misfortune or luck, Tachibana did spot a team of 3 people following him. He did his best to not be too obvious about those that were following him. His pace was steady and he followed Yamato closely. Are they Jonin? Or just Chunin? Tachibana didn't want to alert them just yet, but it seemed like Yamato had also noticed the 3 people following them since he started taking routes that would put more distance between them. So he does know that Danzo and his men will be involved in this thing. Does he also want everyone in Team 7 to develop a bad view of Danzo and the route? Speeding through the forests, after taking occasional breaks to refill their stamina, Team 7 arrived at the entrance of Tanzaku quarters, but they remained hidden in the forest for a little bit. Yamato stopped and looked at the genin, causing them to feel confused for a second before Tachibana realized what he expected of them and took the lead. Naruto, you better transform into the child we will be selling and stay in a cart that Yamato-sensei can prepare for us using his wood-release cart-making jutsu. There is no such jutsu. Yamato wanted to say but Tachibana didn't give him the time to interrupt. Sasuke, you follow us by keeping a fixed distance from us so that you can latch onto the dealer and follow him back to his hideout when we find out more about him. Sakura and I will be entering the black market to find out where our dealer operates from. It's better if you all change your appearances too. Everyone looked at Tachibana and nodded. Yamato saw this and smiled before following Tachibana's orders and making a wooden cart with a wooden prison in it for Naruto to be trapped inside. Once Naruto was trapped, Sasuke, Sakura and Tachibana all began to enter Tanzaku quarters after having disguised themselves as older people. Sasuke transformed into a roadside tramp, while Tachibana transformed into a middle-aged man whose body looked robust and well taken care of. Sakura was diligent in her transformation too as she transformed into a random kunoichi that looked like Tachibana's guard to an untrained eye, while experienced people would see her as an apprentice that Tachibana was training. With all their preparations done, Team 7 set out based on Yamato's orders about where and how one could go to access the black market. Yamato sent a wooden clone to follow along with them just to keep an eye on the team, but he didn't let any of them know about it. Tachibana was the only one who realized since he turned on his spirit vision to keep an eye out for route operatives just in case. Tanzaku town was a haven for enthusiasts of actions shinobi considered vices. As such, it was mostly avoided by shinobi, at least on the surface, since according to Yamato there existed an underground market in the town, literally underground. Each building towards the center of Tanzaku quarters had underground offices which were connected to each other. The buildings acted as access points to these underground offices, with guards being set up at the entrances to filter people and stop random people from wasting the time of their bosses. Altogether, it was a flourishing black market that worked tirelessly to accept and distribute missions to and from Rouge Shinobi. The missions themselves were rather dangerous and involved unverifiable sources of information that could be planted as a trap to capture an unsuspecting shinobi. They could range from simple assassination requests or more complex ones like helping steal high-level jutsu scrolls from smaller shinobi villages. As Tachibana and Sakura walked side by side, they soon reached the narrow alleyway. Beggars sat down along the entrance to the alleyway, keeping watch over the people walking in and out of the alley. Tachibana and Sakura ignored them and walked deeper into the alleyway, which was slightly dark due to the tall gambling houses on both sides. Walking up to a door on the side of one of the buildings, Tachibana took the initiative to knock on the door softly. A piece of the door shifted sideways to reveal a peeping window from which a pair of eyeballs looked at Tachibana. "What do you need? The entrance is on the front side, this way is only for the staff." Already having been warned of the question by Yamato, Tachibana spoke smoothly, "We're here to meet Onizuka." Onizuka was the name of the handler who was technically part of the staff of the underground office. But since they didn't know which building Onizuka's office was connected to, Tachibana had used a little trick for them to be able to find it on the first try. He used divination to direct which street would lead them to the underground office. The eyeball at the peeping window looked at Tachibana and Sakura for a few seconds before it was shut. They heard soft clicks and a few clacks as the heavy iron door slowly opened to reveal the entrance to the underground chamber. An old man was standing behind the door, but Tachibana and Sakura paid no attention to him and continued walking deeper into the chamber. Unknown to the old man, who was standing guard beside the door to make sure no one else would enter, Sasuke easily slipped through by putting everyone around the street under genjutsu. Since they weren't formal shinobi, Sasuke barely had to do anything to appear invisible to them. With Sasuke inside, the old man closed the door, disconnecting the world inside from the outside. Team 7 walked downstairs slowly until they reached a simple underground office that was furnished with wooden beams and posts. A single lantern hung from one of the pillars, giving a dim yellow glow to the room. Tachibana and Sakura spotted a man sitting behind a desk in the room and walked to the seats opposite him and sat down, but did not disturb the man since he was asleep. Sasuke walked into the room and first put the man into a genjutsu to become invisible to him before Sakura lightly tapped the table to wake the man up. The man woke up with a sudden jerk, as if he'd just suddenly realized he was asleep during work. It took him a few seconds to adjust, but the man soon realized that he had clients, except there was a frown on his face. "You are?" Onizuka asked after sending a stray glance Sakura's way before looking at Tachibana. Tachibana frowned as if Onizuka was disrespectful when talking to him and didn't respond to stay in character. Sakura was the one who handled the conversation as she interrupted with an explanation. "We heard you're the guy to go to for getting rid of some goods." "Oh, why didn't you start with that? How many are we talking about?" "I don't do small works like 1 or 2, I work in wholesale, so only 5 or more will be good for me. If you're just here to sell yours, you should probably go elsewhere. Unless it has something special about it. Perhaps from one of those rare clans in Kurigakure. I have clients who will give you a high price for them." Sakura almost frowned after seeing just how casually Onizuka was talking about selling children, but she kept up appearances and spoke calmly. "We have 15, when can you check and confirm the goods so that we can move to shipping and getting paid?" 15. What did you guys do? Rob an orphanage or something? Well, whatever it is, it's not my business. I can send someone to your location by tomorrow morning at the earliest, just mark it on this map. Since I don't personally check on the goods myself, who knows what sick fantasies you might have." Sakura nodded and picked up the wooden quill and dipped it in some ink before marking out the spot they'd set up for Naruto to be taken, but Tachibana stopped her and looked at Onizuka. "How much will you pay us?" Onizuka giggled to himself for a bit before looking at Tachibana and smiling as he spoke. "Damn, I thought I had the girl, Why did you have to interfere, old man? The best thing to learn from is experience. You should have just allowed her to finish the deal without asking me the price. Then I could have sent the guards after her to make her fulfill the deal. The room gained its usual busy sound as Onizuka and Tachibana continued to speak and talk about various prices for their goods and services. No way, 3 million ryo is too much. Onizuka shook his head rapidly, but Tachibana didn't give up. He clearly remembered the price that the samurai had sold the 15 children for, and yet he only asked for about 50% of the price. So he spoke in a stern tone. Look, I'm only proposing you give me half the price since I'm currently in a hurry to collect a little money. If you want to still cheat me, I'll go to your client directly. I might not know them right now, but trust me, I'll find out who they are eventually and then I'll undercut you. Onizuka frowned at this but then calmed down after the not-so-veiled threat and continued to haggle with Tachibana. In the background, however, Sasuke was calmly flipping through books and various paper records to figure out where the kidnapped children were being sent or sold off to. Sasuke calmly flipped through pages since he trusted Tachibana to take as much ever time as it was needed for him to find any information that would give them the appropriate leads. Sasuke remained calm and collected as he pulled out file after file from around the desk, but most of the files were simple ledgers which contained no more information than the amount of money Onizuka was getting paid. There was no identifying information about his clients or even a hint about where they might be hiding or waiting for his next transaction. Eventually though, thanks to his keen mind, Sasuke noticed a simple pattern. 50 days, a new batch of children is sold every 50 days to a big client. And the next one is in 3 days. A batch from 2 months ago, this client was active. Sasuke rechecked his estimate by studying through other ledgers and then calmly nodded before replacing everything exactly where they were supposed to be. Turning to Tachibana, Sasuke nodded, prompting Tachibana to finish the deal as he stood up while speaking calmly. Send someone to the Yuru Tenshi Inn after 6 p.m. today. I can take your man to the spot where they are kept for you to inspect the goods. You can find me by the name Nobita. I will be there myself to check the quality of the goods, of course only as long as you don't mind me bringing along someone to help me a little and keep me safe. Tachibana nodded silently and Onizuka took that as acceptance to guide the duo to the exit while Sasuke followed them from behind. You'll get all the payment when we perform the transaction, Onizuka said politely as the trio left the room. Walking out of the alleyway, the genin trio quickly blended in with the crowd of people walking around as they made their way out of the town once again. On their way to the exit, Tachibana spoke to Sasuke. Learned anything? Sasuke nodded. The next transaction between him and his biggest client will happen in 3 days. They seem to sell kids in batches to this client. So I think this might be who we are after. At least this person has the biggest probability since they purchased kids when you were performing your mission to retrieve kids from that village we went to earlier. Tachibana nodded since Sasuke's logic wasn't wrong. Well, we can just report to Yamate. Tachibana paused suddenly as someone walked right into him as soon as they turned around a corner. Something soft and fluffy pressed into Tachibana's face before he was knocked to the ground because the person rudely rushed ahead. The hell? Tachibana shouted from the ground. Sorry. This is an emergency. Sorry. A black-haired woman apologized to Tachibana before running away herself. Tachibana's eyes traveled around the crowd before he thought he spotted a blonde head looking around for something, but since the person had already run away he didn't know what to do or even who to blame. Sasuke helped Tachibana up and Sakura laughed at him. How did you lose your balance so easily? I thought you were an acrobat. Tachibana almost blushed when he heard that question since his concentration was elsewhere when he fell, but he didn't let it cloud his mind. That smell though, why was it so familiar? Sometimes people have a bad day. Tachibana said while trying to avoid the question. Did you catch who it was? No, the person was too fast. I almost thought we were under attack, so I was about to make sure all the civilians were safe. Sakura said. What about you, Sasuke? Sasuke looked thoughtful for a second but he just shook his head. I don't think I saw right. Tachibana shrugged and then they started moving towards the exit again, but midway through, Yamato appeared in front of them and spoke calmly. I'll be resting outside the city, near the spot where I made the wooden cart. Naruto will wait with me there, don't worry about it and go to the inn. Come to the spot along with the handler. Yamato said, handing over keys to their rooms in the Yuru Tenshi Inn. Tachibana had a peculiar frown on his face when he heard this, since Yamato could have just as easily sent his clone to wait with them at the inn. It was strange that he was leaving the mission entirely up to them without supervision. Even though they'd pulled off a few crazy things before, this was technically only their third big mission outside the village. Well, I can always just divine about it later. Tachibana and Sakura kept up pretenses and entered the room in the inn while Sasuke entered the room through the window to stay hidden and keep his cover. Tachibana immediately entered the washroom and quickly performed dream divination. Why is Yamato-sensei avoiding staying in the walls of Tanzaku quarters? Tachibana repeated the question 7 times and used cogitation to put himself into a light sleep before his vision shifted as he got a response. In Tachibana's vision came a beautiful blonde lady. She wore a green haori over a gray kimono-style blouse with no sleeves, held closed by a broad, dark bluish-gray obi that matched her pants. The woman was sitting at a low table while sipping on some alcohol in a saucer. Her posture was loose and she repeatedly kept falling onto another woman who was beside her. Shizune. Why did we win? Isn't that good, Tsunade-sama? No. Tsunade was about to fall into Shizune's lap and fall asleep, but her eyes suddenly sharpened as her body stiffened before she rushed out towards the balcony of her room. Not finding what she was looking for, Tsunade quickly jumped out of the balcony and rushed in a particular direction, with Shizune quickly following behind her. Tachibana looked around in the vision carefully before he spotted the person Tsunade was after. It was Yamato-sensei. Tsunade then bumped into someone, which caused her to lose focus on the person she was chasing, and the vision shattered there. First, Tachibana was loosely shocked about the answer to his question being Tsunade. Secondly, he was shocked by what he inferred. So Tsunade can detect other Senju clan members. So Yamato-sensei is avoiding her because he doesn't want things to get awkward about the village. Especially while we are on a mission that involves the culprit responsible for making Yamato into what he is. Well, this is exciting, Tachibana thought as a devious plan started to form in his mind. I need to inflict as much damage as possible on my enemy, right? What better way than to use a Sannin? How exciting. Tachibana tried to perform a simple sleep divination to work out where Tsunade was living, but without any items close to her he couldn't learn much. All he could figure out was that she was staying in Tanzaku quarters currently. Coming out of the washroom after flushing to pretend like he was doing something in there, Tachibana looked at Sakura, who was working on her chakra control technique, and Sasuke, who was reading a book on shuriken throwing techniques, and sighed. Do either of you guys wanna go visit a few stores to bring back souvenirs? Tachibana asked his friends, but both of them shook their heads. So instead of bothering them anymore, Tachibana jumped out of the balcony window, opting to go pick up souvenirs himself. While he didn't have anyone to pass on the souvenirs to, he did want to get something for his parents, since he was pretty sure he'd meet them at the end of this mission to report about it all. On the way, Tachibana thought about how he would go about involving Tsunade in the stage he was going to create and set up. Should I just introduce myself as a seer and stabilize my reputation with her by telling her that I know about her fear of blood? No, that would sound strange. I'd imagine that would set us off on the wrong foot. And if she doesn't believe me and informs other shinobi about my ability to divine their secrets, it would be a huge problem, for now. Then how about arranging a coincidence which causes her to come to me instead of making me go to her? What information could do that though, and how do I make her know about it? Single quote. As Tachibana walked around the town, he kept his eyes and ears trained for any noises that involved Tsunade and Shizune, but to his bad luck, it seemed like Tsunade had stopped gambling for some reason. Did she already spend away all the money she had? Oh, then couldn't I meet her under the premise of giving her a loan? But I doubt I could fool her with my transformation jutsu. Tachibana made sure to roam around for a while, but not finding any success, he returned to his inn since it was getting late and Onizuka would probably be arriving at their destination soon. Except, the heck, I searched for her all day and now I find her. Tsunade was apparently living in the same inn as the one Team 7 had planned to stay in while posing as child traffickers. Tachibana looked at Tsunade and Shizune, who were waiting to get the key to their room from the receptionist, and quickly walked up to them. Specifically, he walked up to Shizune and interrupted her as she stood beside Tsunade. "Oni-san, can I pet him?" Tachibana said, pointing at Taunton, the little pink pig, who was in her arms. Shizune smiled and spoke calmly after noticing Tachibana's forehead protector. "Aren't you on a mission?" As soon as Shizune said the word mission, Tsunade's head snapped over to Tachibana. "Don't worry, Oni-san, I'm not the type to abandon my post. We're just relaxing for now since we have to wait for our target to appear." Shizune smiled and then led Taunton a little closer to Tachibana, who softly pinched the fat pig's cheeks and tickled its ears. "He's cute," Tachibana said, and as if agreeing with him, the little pig oinked. "My mom has a cat too, but he's probably running around the village again since mom keeps feeding him too much." "Really? I thought about getting a cat before. But Taunton felt the cutest of them all, so I brought him since I could eat more food with him." "Really?" Tachibana asked, looking like he was shocked. "I mean, you don't look like someone that eats a lot." Shizune smiled with embarrassment before lightly punching Tachibana on his shoulder, and Tachibana nodded as he excused himself. "I hope I see you again sometime later, Oni-san. Need to go do my duties now. I'll probably stay in the inn for the next 3 days." Shizune waved her hand and then turned around to look at Tsunade, who had furrowed brows. "What happened, Tsunade-sama? Is it because he didn't greet you?" Shizune asked with a little confusion, since Tsunade wasn't one to hold grudges over such things. Tsunade, on the other hand, was thinking hard about something. That boy was from Konoha. If he's just come here on a mission today, then that feeling from earlier, could it be his Jonin-sensei? I need to figure out who that person was anyway. "Shizune, you go ahead and wait with Taunton in the room. I'll come back after a little while, I just remembered something." Shizune's eyes turned teary. "Tsunade-sama, you said you won't gamble anymore from today onwards." But Tsunade had already used the body flicker jutsu to flicker away. Tachibana, who had already reached his room, watched as his friends were both sleeping on their chairs and on the bed at odd angles. Without disturbing them, Tachibana sat on one of his own chairs and activated spirit vision to look around the inn. "Oh, that was faster than I thought. I didn't think she'd be this interested in knowing who Yamato was. She's standing guard on the roof, right above my room. So she probably wants to figure out where Yamato is by tracking me. Well, at least with this, I have a reason to rope her into our team and then the mission." Tachibana waited for about 5 minutes while waiting before he looked at the time and nodded to himself as he clapped twice to wake up his teammates. Sasuke's head jerked as he woke up to look around as if someone was attacking them, and Sakura was doing her best to wipe away the drool on her face. Both calmed down when they saw Tachibana looking at them with an amused gaze and then glared at him. "What? I'm not the one who fell asleep. What would you do if someone had come in here to assassinate you? Yamato-sensei isn't here to keep watch on you too. So you guys better step up, or someone will end up assassinating you while you sleep." Sakura and Sasuke's eyes softened and they nodded before Tachibana continued, "Better change into our personas since we'll have company soon." Tachibana and Sakura transformed into their disguises while Sasuke left the room to tail them when they stepped out of the room and went to the forest where Naruto was trapped. Tachibana saw how Tsunade adjusted herself to always remain out of Sasuke's vision and admired her skills, but he was soon forced to look back at the door when he heard a soft knock from the other side. Tachibana and Sakura looked at each other before Sakura walked up to the door and opened it. Behind it, as Tachibana saw through his spirit vision, were Onizuka and his 2 guards. Using his spirit vision, Tachibana could see that both of them were shinobi, since both had used the transformation jutsu to appear larger and bulkier than they actually were. Seeing the quality of their transformation jutsu, Tachibana knew even Sakura knew about their trick, and so they had nothing to worry about. "Lady, are you going to keep us waiting or can we come in?" Onizuka said in a brash tone, but Tachibana interrupted him. "No, there's no need to waste time. Let's go." Onizuka looked at Tachibana with interest before nodding. "Boys, you heard the master. Let's go." The walk back to the forest was uneventful, with all the interested parties keeping their distance from the main group, which consisted of Onizuka, his guards, and Sakura and Tachibana. They left the village from a hidden entrance to keep their business away and hidden from the city guards. It wasn't a secret to the city officials that child smuggling happened within it, but Onizuka took this route to show Tachibana and Sakura how much he valued their products. Arriving at the location where Naruto and 14 other wood clones were sitting inside a cart, Tachibana presented the children that would be smuggled to Onizuka. As soon as Naruto saw Tachibana and Sakura, he shouted, trying to do his best to look like a kidnapped child. "What are you doing, old man? You told me there would be ramen where we went. Why did you bring me?" Naruto was about to shout more, but Sakura quickly flicked her shuriken at him to shut him up. It was clear to everyone on Team 7 that the more Naruto spoke, the more they'd risk sabotaging their mission. Onizuka looked at Naruto for a few seconds before he nodded towards his guards to go ahead and examine the goods. One of the guards left with a kunai in his hand to check if the children were all real or just clones. The children, except Naruto, all retreated at the sight of a kunai. They moved to the other side of the cart and almost caused it to tilt over, but Sakura quickly held the other side and kept it level. The children that Yamato had created using his wood clone jutsu were mostly not very well dressed or even taken care of. They all looked malnourished and had slightly sunken cheeks, but the trouble was that even though they wouldn't get easily dispelled because of a kunai stab since they were solid clones, they wouldn't bleed. So Tachibana distracted them by simply tossing a paper card at the shinobi that was walking towards the children. "Don't hurt them more than you need to. I won't be taking any less money simply because they are damaged." Onizuka laughed good-naturedly and spoke with a soft glimmer in his eyes. "Don't worry, we don't want to damage our own goods too. They will only lightly cut them up so that we can see if they're real, if you know what I mean." Tachibana looked at Onizuka with a frown, and once he got the signal from Sakura that everything was all right and that they were all trapped in her genjutsu, he nodded briefly. "All right." The shinobi quickly checked everyone by pulling their hands and creating a light scratch or prick on their hands. Naruto was the only one to stay silent, however, as he looked at the shinobi with anger. "A feisty one, aren't you?" Onizuka said, coming closer to Naruto and scanning him all over. Onizuka finally walked back to Tachibana and gave him a storage scroll. Tachibana quickly checked the storage scroll and found that it contained all the money. Satisfied by the amount of money he got, Tachibana spoke with a soft nod. "I will be taking my leave then." Onizuka nodded with a smile and spoke with a soft bow, "It was our pleasure to do business with you. Come back to Onizuka once again if you ever need to do something like this. We handle a variety of tasks, including but not limited to time-sensitive deliveries of all products, alive or dead, shinobi or non-shinobi." Tachibana nodded and started to walk away with Sakura, but to distance himself from Onizuka, Tachibana took the route towards the main gate. Sasuke and Yamato soon joined them when both Tachibana and Sakura dropped their disguise. Yamato had left a wood clone with Naruto so that they could follow Naruto when he was being transported to the client and also to keep an eye on him. "That went smoother than I thought," Tachibana thought calmly, and then he looked at Yamato and asked him a simple question, a little loudly though so that anyone that was around them would, coincidentally, hear it. "Why are you so invested in this care-sensei?" Yamato looked at Tachibana surprised and spoke softly, "Is that so? How did you notice? I thought I did a good job of hiding it well." The answer prompted Sasuke and Sakura to also look at Tachibana since they hadn't noticed something like this. "It's just that you seem awfully familiar with the process of kids who get transported around in the underground world. And those kids you made, seemed very real, especially the fear in their eyes when they saw the kunai being pulled out by the shinobi who was checking if they were real. "Ah, I understand," Yamato nodded, and then in a slightly subdued voice, Yamato spoke calmly, "I may have gone through something similar when I was a child myself. Not everyone has a happy village surrounding them when they grow up now today." Tachibana's eyes lightly flicked towards their follower and his eyes gleamed in joy when he noticed the person freeze in their tracks for a few seconds. She heard it loud and clear. "Now I just need to reel in the fish. Did you happen to get a closure to whoever did this to you?" Tachibana asked in a caring tone, softly as if he was very worried about Yamato's condition. Yamato smiled and spoke calmly, "Sometimes getting revenge isn't as important as surrounding yourself with people who really do care about you." Tachibana was a little disappointed with his answer, but Yamato's next words made him smile internally. Especially since who knows, maybe the person we're after is the same one that did this to me. Tachibana used his spirit vision to study Tsunade and saw her spirit reflect a deep blue hue, indicating she was thinking about what Yamato had just said. She's probably trying to figure out who dared to kidnap Yamato, a member of the Senju clan. How nice of her. With Tsunade hooked on Yamato's origins, Team 7-Naruto were all back in their room at the inn where they were going to wait for the next 3 days until they got the signal from Yamato's wood clone that the deal was ready. In these 3 days, Tsunade was always in a slump. Her pretty face always reflected a frown and it was making Shizune worried. Tsunade constantly looked in Yamato's direction while thinking deeply about what she should do. "I technically am the clan leader now that Mito boss-san isn't here and no one else is here too. But wouldn't it be weird for him if I suddenly show up and talk to him as a Senju clan leader? Wouldn't he be intimidated that a Sannin suddenly came up to him and claimed to be his clan leader? What about his wish? Does he even want to be associated with the Senju clan anymore?" Tsunade was continuously suppressing her chakra to keep Yamato from noticing her, but this was also constantly giving her strange questions to think about that she had no answers to. Tsunade-sama hasn't drank alcohol or gambled in 3 days. How scary. Is she finally giving up on life? Shizune finally couldn't take it anymore and was about to confront Tsunade on why she was so sad, but before she could speak, Tsunade spoke herself. "Shizune, pack up all our belongings. We will be moving for the next few days." "Huh?" Shizune was puzzled. "Make sure you dress light since we will be following a Jonin of the Leaf Village." Shizune was now even more confused and puzzled. But seeing the resolve in Tsunade's eyes, she didn't question her and instead did as she said. Tachibana, who had been keeping track of it all with the help of his spirit vision, finally looked at the time and thought to himself, "It's finally time for us to follow the trail of the main culprit. I wonder who it'll lead us first towards. Orochimaru or Danzo." Naruto was sitting loosely while leaning on the wooden cage with his head knocked back and drooling in his sleep as he did so. The other children in the cage were similarly asleep even when Yamato's clone suddenly appeared in the room they were all trapped in. PSS's, Naruto-kun. PSS's. Flick. Ah. *MFFMFFMFF. A small stone suddenly hit Naruto's forehead, causing him to wake up screaming, but Yamato's clone managed to stop him in time by grabbing his mouth. Naruto looked around for a few seconds and then his eyes locked onto Yamato, after which he calmed down. "Yamato-sensei. Why are you here? The child traffickers are going to be arriving in the next few minutes according to Sasuke's intel. Be ready for anything that might happen." Naruto looked at Yamato's serious expression before nodding himself. "Don't worry, sensei. I'll make sure to do my best." "Good. Make sure you don't speak unless spoken to, and make sure that you don't let them catch not the fact that you're a shinobi at any point in time." Naruto nodded with a determined expression. They both heard soft steps from the other side of the door and Yamato quickly vanished from his spot, vanishing into the ground soundlessly as if he never existed in the room in the first place. The door flung open and Naruto saw Onizuka entering the room, smiling and laughing along with his 2 bodyguards, so he quickly closed his eyes and pretended he was asleep. "Can you believe it? 15 kids at once. We're going to be rich." He didn't even bargain for a higher price though. Boss, don't you think we are a little too lucky? Don't worry about it. You saw them leaving the town today to go back with their money. Don't worry about them anymore. And don't jinx the fortune we've landed upon. Okay, boss, as you say. The shinobi then walked up to the wooden cage in which all the children were trapped and rattled the cage by running a stick of his own over the bars. Naruto woke up as if he'd been startled just like the other children, and once his eyes focused on the shinobi he shouted. What are you going to do to us? The shinobi smiled greedily but didn't say anything. Onizuka then stepped forward and scanned all the kids in the cage once more before looking at his two shinobi and spoke, give them a little water. Just enough that they can speak and don't piss themselves. The shinobi nodded, and after giving all the kids a small bowl with water they waited for them to finish it all. As with most kids that Yamato was controlling, Naruto was a little afraid that the water was poisoned, but knowing that they wouldn't harm their goods, he quickly gulped the water since he hadn't had anything to drink for the past 3 days. But Naruto hadn't accounted for the fact that Onizuka wanted to knock out all the kids so that they could be smuggled and moved around the forest secretly and be transferred to their new owners more peacefully. They had had cases of children trying to run away before after all. Naruto tried to force his eyes to stay open, but he soon lost control and fell asleep. Yamato noticed this but did nothing. It would serve as a good test for his team's genin to see how they would handle such a situation. The shinobi quickly checked everyone to see if any of them were still awake, but once satisfied with their tests, which just involved rattling the wooden cage loudly with a stick, they stopped. Alright, let's take them, Onizuka said, and the two shinobi bodyguards quickly began to follow him deeper into the forest along a preset route that they had traveled multiple times before to settle their deals. But they didn't realize that following them were 6 people. 3 genins, Tachibana, Sakura and Sasuke, along with 3 powerful shinobi, Yamato, Shizune and Tsunade. The genin were much closer, with Sasuke being the closest so that he could quickly catch the people around them off guard with a genjutsu. Sakura and Tachibana walked parallelly along the high branches in the trees to make sure that they could scout the area they were moving towards to make any preparations that might be needed. Tachibana quickly noticed that Naruto was asleep using his spirit vision and signaled the same to Sakura and Sasuke, who nodded. Eventually, they came upon a short clearing in the forest. Tachibana nearly froze in his tracks as soon as he looked at who was waiting in the clearing, or rather what he saw through his spirit vision. What? Seriously? Tachibana could see a man with several smaller life forms moving under his skin as if they'd inhabited his body and built a nest inside it. An aburame. Tachibana frowned. Yamato-sensei's wood clone won't work anymore, since once he checks on the children he'll realize that they're just wood clones. Is there a way to trick him? Sasuke's genjutsu. No, I doubt he can cast a genjutsu on the hundreds if not thousands of insects in the man's body at once. With each step Tachibana moved towards the clearing, he wanted to signal to Sasuke and Sakura to abandon the mission to regroup and plan better, but he didn't know how he would explain his ability to know this information. But then Tachibana studied the shinobi in front of him a little better. He is only showing a scorpion on his shoulder and is wearing the Tsunade headband. That's probably to divert suspicions from himself and Konoha. His aura is blue and green in color, which means he is calmly thinking about something. If I'm not wrong, he probably already knows that we're here thanks to his bugs that are scouting the area. So he already knows that this is a trap. Yet he isn't fleeing or even trying to check up on us. So Danzo already knew that we were investigating the kidnapped children case and sent someone to interfere with the mission for some reason. Tachibana quickly scanned around the area and his suspicion grew into a deep confirmation when he saw the other root members waiting calmly a little deeper into the forest. So he plans on ambushing us. But why? It can't be to kill us because he knows about Naruto being the Jinchuriki. Not like Yamato-sensei would have let that happen. So to test us. Tachibana smiled in his mind as he found a window to Danzo's mind. So throughout the fight, they'll try to only use wind release to stay under cover while they fight. I just need to force the Aburame guy to reveal his insects in the fight in a way that's undeniable and proves that he is from Konoha, without letting anyone become suspicious that I already knew his identity. A plan started to form in Tachibana's mind and he almost smiled thinking about how he was going to fight in the upcoming fight. Tachibana quickly sent signals to Sakura and Sasuke. I see 2 more enemies up ahead. In case a fight breaks out, I and Sakura will take those ahead. Sasuke, you fight the guy in front of us. Sasuke and Sakura acknowledged with signals of their own since they found the plan reasonable. Tachibana, Sakura and Sasuke stood on the sidelines as Onizuka and his band of shinobi came to a stop with the wooden cart that had several children inside it. They sent someone new this time. Did the old guy shit too hard and die? His face did look like he was always constipated. Onizuka asked calmly with a perpetual smirk that made him look like he was the greatest human on the planet. The Aburame shinobi didn't respond to the hilarious joke and instead calmly ignored it before asking a different question, what do you drink when you're tired? Ah, come on. Who would like to imitate the great Onizuka? No one in the entire black market would even try and do such a foolish thing. The Aburame shinobi placed his hand on his weapons pouch in silence and that was enough to shut Onizuka up and bring a frown onto his face. Wheat wine. Onizuka spat out before stepping away from the cart with his shinobi bodyguards. The Aburame shinobi quickly walked up and under Tachibana's stern gaze only scratched Naruto to check if he was real. He didn't even bother checking the other kids. While to Sasuke and Sakura, this felt normal since they assumed he trusted Onizuka. Yamato and Tsunade quickly spotted the discrepancy since it was rather rare and naive or stupid for anyone to trust the other in the black market. Meanwhile, Tachibana was trying hard to hide the smile from showing up on his face. So they're completely acting as if they're from Tsunagakure and don't want to reveal that they're from Konoha. Not that it is going to make my task any different. The Aburame shinobi tossed a storage scroll that was filled with money towards Onizuka before quickly dragging the wooden cart along with him deeper into the forest. The genin trio followed the shinobi and as soon as Onizuka was out of view Tachibana looked at Sasuke and nodded. With Sasuke having gotten the message, Tachibana led Sakura deeper into the forest to fight off the other 2 people he could see who were waiting to ambush them. How did you find them, Tachibana-kun? Sakura asked as she too soon spotted the people blending in with the forest foliage. I noticed that the shinobi that had revealed himself was confident in nothing going wrong with the deal. But since he wasn't a jonin, I suspected that he was a part of a team, much like us. It wasn't hard to find them once I began seriously tried finding where they were hiding. Of course, this was not true since Tachibana had only been able to find them with spirit vision, but he told it so confidently that Sakura easily believed it. It was also because the shinobi were poorly disguised to try and test if Tachibana could pay basic attention to his surroundings that they were caught. Sakura nodded after sending a few signals Tachibana's way that she would be taking the shinobi hiding on the left. They split up. Sasuke in the meanwhile pulled out 2 sharp kunai and activated his Sharingan. He wanted to finish this fight soon since making any noise would only alert the other people hiding. Tiptoeing on the branches of the trees, Sasuke paced his breathing as he controlled himself to launch a single but lethal attack. And before the Aburame shinobi could react, Sasuke zipped through the air as he used the body flicker jutsu to instantly appear in front of him. The Aburame shinobi was genuinely startled when he suddenly saw a pair of Sharingan looking deep into his eyes, and for an instant, he fell into a daze. But the insects in his body were quick. Almost as soon as he fell into a daze, the Aburame woke up when the insects in his body that were trained to break him out of a genjutsu disrupted his chakra. Without waiting a second more, the Aburame shinobi quickly retreated, causing Sasuke's planned next strike to his temple with the back of his kunai miss. Sasuke's eyes widened given the speed at which the Aburame shinobi broke out of his Sharingan genjutsu and frowned before he tightened his grip around his kunai and attacked once again, not wanting to give the shinobi any time to inform or gather reinforcements. On the other end, Sakura flicked 3 shuriken out of each of her hands towards the shinobi who was hiding in front of her. The shinobi instantly dropped his transformation that was seen through and pulled out his kunai to deflect the shuriken. Unfortunately for her, Sakura had pulled out a page from Sasuke's book by attaching wire to her shuriken. Almost instantly as the shinobi tried deflecting her kunai away, Sakura pulled on the wire and caused them to spin at obtuse angles so that they wrapped around the shinobi's hands and spun towards his face. But unluckily for Sakura, the shinobi hadn't just prepared for Tachibana to spot them through the foliage. They had also prepared to test his skill in detecting traps. Almost instantly as soon as the shinobi realized his life was under threat, he pulled his fingers, causing several traps to activate at the same time, sending a plentiful assortment of kunai and shuriken flying towards Sakura. Naruto woke up from his unconscious state slowly. His vision was blurry at first, but it soon cleared up as he remembered who he was and what he was doing a few seconds prior. Naruto quickly pushed himself up the hard surface of the wooden cart and saw Sasuke fighting the shinobi from Tsunade and frowned. He was about to get up and shout, but then he remembered Yamato's orders to keep quiet and make sure he didn't reveal himself easily. So Naruto froze as his mind started to cook up various ways he could take the shinobi that Sasuke was fighting with by surprise without revealing himself. Tachibana didn't attack the shinobi who he had picked. Instead, he simply prepared the battlefield to his advantage. He threw out several kunai with explosive tags he had modified to give them different detonation times that no one but him knew how to identify. But as all good things come to an end, the shinobi quickly realized what Tachibana was doing and threw away the cloth that he had been using to hide himself using the transformation jutsu. Except, it was already too late for him. Tachibana looked at the shinobi and with a smile formed the detonation seal that suddenly caused all his kunai to spark. Well, at least now he knows that it isn't a good thing to test an enemy you know nothing about. None of the sealing tags exploded, but as soon as Sasuke, Sakura and Naruto heard those sounds resonate throughout the entire forest, their hair stood on ends. A shudder traveled up their spines as they reflected back on how Tachibana had tortured them with it. They all mentally looked in the same direction and prayed for whoever was facing Tachibana before focusing on their own fights. What Tachibana and company never noticed was the tiny paper and ink insects fluttering around the forest, covering each and every area meticulously, studying the battles with great interest. Tsunade, Shizune and Yamato did, and they didn't like it. But Tsunade and Shizune chose not to interfere since this was Yamato's mission, while Yamato himself chose to remain on the sidelines since there wasn't a clear way he could deal with them without making sure that none of them escaped. Tachibana's enemy looked around at the explosive tags littered in the area that had been lit up before slamming his hand onto the ground. Wind release, great breakthrough. Thick funnels of air flew outwards in the four directions around the shinobi, covering the shinobi from almost all sides to prevent him from taking a direct blow from the explosive tags and becoming disabled. But Tachibana's smile deepened when he saw this. Under his swift command, a series of explosive seals were activated and they all exploded. But instead of creating a dust cloud or even causing a loud explosion that would cause someone to go deaf, they all released a shower of sparks like a firecracker. With the entire area covered in a sea of sparks, the shinobi became confused about what Tachibana was doing. Did his explosive tags fail? Danzo-sama is right. Konoha cannot trust outsiders. Only explosive tags made by the root are of a good quality. Before the shinobi could finish his words, a spark that had reached near his face through the open top of the pseudo barrier that the shinobi had set up flared. The spark flickered for a second before it rapidly expanded in the air to form a flaming gateway to the spirit world. Tachibana vanished from his own position before reappearing in front of the shinobi in a swift single moment as he jabbed two sharp kunai into the shinobi's shoulders before he could even recall or react to something happening. With that, Tachibana was the first person to take down his enemy. Sakura looked at the various traps that had been suddenly activated and carefully analyzed all their trajectories. As the traps got closer, her fingers' grip on the strings that had wrapped around her enemy loosened slightly as she faltered in her decision. Should I focus on taking him down now or should I defend myself first? Sakura frowned deeply, but not even a moment later she had a simple solution to her current scenario. Sakura's chakra flared and before her enemy could do anything he was suddenly pulled closer to Sakura who was running towards him. Under his slightly shocked gaze, if he could even feel such emotions, Sakura had turned this into a game of chicken. If the shinobi chickened and pulled out of his attack first, that would allow him to dodge Sakura. But if he made sure to attack her with the intention that Sakura would chicken out first, then he could get a clean shot at her. But if they both stayed true to their attacks, they would both get hurt, but Sakura would be less hurt since she'd already tied up her enemy and rendered him mostly useless in a direct fight. Sakura ducked under a kunai that was moving straight at her head before pulling out another kunai to deflect a series of senbon that had been launched in her direction. Her enemy was pulled closer to her as Sakura kept the strings between them tight while he continued to try and get out of the bindings Sakura had trapped him in. This continued for a few more seconds, as Sakura performed inhumane body twists while deflecting those weapons that she could not. Sakura accumulated a few scratches and cuts, but she stayed true to her plan and kept pulling her enemy closer with each move. Sakura was focused, and soon the two were in attacking range of each other. With the enemy bound by strings, the outcome seemed clear as Sakura swung her kunai right at the shinobi's head. But to her shock and awe, the enemy suddenly broke the strings since he had been continuously weakening them throughout the time Sakura was evading his carefully set traps. Caught in an improper posture for defending against incoming attacks, Sakura was laid bare in front of her enemy who was about to drive a kunai into her neck. But he hadn't anticipated what would happen next. The kunai traveled straight through Sakura's heart, causing an explosion of blood, but the shinobi instantly felt weird. There was no resistance. But it was too late. A kunai appeared from beside the shinobi's head as he in his last-ditch effort flared his chakra to break out of the genjutsu he was in. The kunai effortlessly stabbed the shinobi's lower back and disabled him for the rest of his life, which was probably not going to be very long. And with that, Sakura became the second person to take down her opponent. Sakura looked at Tachibana and spotted him lazily pocket the shinobi's money while tossing away the money pouch into the trees and shook her head. Cheapskate. Tachibana noticed someone looking at him and he looked at Sakura, so he frowned a little before producing a 10 ryo note and flicking it at Sakura. The note struck the tree beside her and she picked it up wordlessly. Is this supposed to be a bribe? Sakura thought, and when she looked at Tachibana she saw him nodding with a smile before he flashed her a thumbs up. Sasuke on the other hand was struggling a little since his traditional method of luring his opponent into a genjutsu to kill them silently wasn't working well. How is he disrupting my Sharingan genjutsu so easily? I guess Sakura and Tachibana are done. Tisk. I'm in the last place. And I thought I was growing stronger. Sasuke looked at Naruto, who he'd already noticed had woken up and formed a quick plan in his head. Sasuke rushed at his enemy and engaged him in a taijutsu battle. They traded blow for blow, but Sasuke was at a clear advantage because of the Sharingan. The enemy tried desperately to string in feints and counters in his taijutsu style, but Sasuke's eyes never missed the mark in separating the truth from the lies. Even then Sasuke only appeared to be struggling a little. In reality, he was much more relaxed since he'd fought in much tenser fights with Yamato's clone to get used to Kakashi's Sharingan. Sasuke was currently simply keeping the pace of the fight a little slow to understand exactly how his enemy was disturbing his genjutsu. Seeing how he was being pressed by Sasuke, the shinobi frowned. He isn't my target. The target is to understand Tachibana Rei's abilities better. It seems I have to take this a little more serious. Sasuke easily noticed when his enemy was distracted and jabbed his ribs to drag his attention back into the fight. He didn't want to lag behind his comrades for long and decided that they could just question him once he was captured to know more about his methods. But that was when Sasuke suddenly started to feel weird and weak. Poison. But I was never cut. Air poison. Something that he is immune to already or has the antidote for. Sasuke quickly looked down at his body to understand what was wrong and became shocked when he saw small insects filled with his chakra. Aburame clan. Sasuke was shocked and flattered for a moment, causing the Aburame shinobi to land a punch in his guts. Sasuke flew off the ground a little because of the weight behind the punch before the pain quickly leveled him out of his shock as he bore through the pain by using genjutsu on himself to cut off his pain receptors. Sasuke's legs twisted around the man's arm like a snake before locking his neck into a triangle choke as he used his momentum to swing around the shinobi's neck and pin him onto the ground while completely breaking the man's shoulder in the process. The entire event was finished in a few seconds before the shinobi was disabled, making Sasuke the third to finally capture his enemy. Naruto meanwhile still had his eyes closed and was trying to think of a solution and help Sasuke while sitting inside the cage and pretending to be knocked out. Just as Sasuke was about to relax after disabling his enemy and wait for Tachibana and Sakura to return, his instincts warned him of danger and forced him to duck at a seemingly random time. But Sasuke listened to his instincts and ducked almost immediately. However, the bad posture and timing forced him to either defend himself or the shinobi he'd just captured. Sasuke chose the former and jumped away from the shinobi. His eyes immediately turned scarlet in color to transform into Sharingan as he quickly scanned around for the danger. What he saw left him a little shocked and surprised. Tachibana was about to steal the exploding tags on his enemy's body before he heard a sharp swish that he quickly dodged by teleporting to a random ember that stayed lit up on the ground. Tachibana instantly armed himself with kunai and scanned around the area for his enemy. An albino lion. Are there even normal lions in this world? No. These are size creations. Tachibana's grip on his kunai tightened. Damn, I can't trace them with my spirit vision. Is it because they aren't really alive and have no souls? Has he been staring at us all and collecting intel on us throughout our fights? Why is he here? To recapture his comrades. No, the root doesn't care if they live or die. The cursed tongue eradication seal is proof enough of that. So he's here for the Aburame shinobi whose body might reveal that Konoha was behind this attack and not Tsunade. Tachibana frowned. He wasn't about to let his plan go to waste. It wasn't for no reason that Tachibana wanted to let Sasuke fight the Aburame shinobi. It was precisely because Sasuke with his Sharingan had the highest chance of noticing the bugs scattered around the forest that Tachibana did it. He didn't do it himself since he didn't know if the Aburame shinobi had bugs hidden inside his body or not. But with Sasuke's help, he was sure that even a single bug that the Aburame shinobi might use wouldn't go unnoticed, especially since they were in a forest where bugs were pretty common. What do? I can't make it obvious that I know about their plan to rescue the Aburame clan shinobi. Then how? Tachibana looked around the area and spotted Sakura looking at an ink panther in front of her. A frown appeared on his face for a second before it vanished. Sakura, don't fight with them. Retreat to Sasuke. We need to regroup to help each other learn more about this new enemy instead of carelessly attacking them all. Sakura nodded, and before the ink animals could react, Tachibana and Sakura both used the body flicker jutsu and vanished from where they were standing. Thick ink vines suddenly grew out of the ground to lash at Sakura and Tachibana and capture them by entangling their legs, but Tachibana easily diverted them by flicking his finger to form the concentration seal. As soon as Tachibana was finished with his seal, BOOOOM asterisk BOOOOOMMMMMMM asterisk BOOOOOOMMMMMMMMM. Multiple short explosions occurred in the forest. The explosive seals that Tachibana had planted earlier as a precaution exploded the base of a few tall trees, causing them to topple and fall over as soon as they lost support. It helped since the ink creatures that were chasing them stopped for a few seconds, but that still wasn't enough since as soon as the leaf canopy cover fell down, Sakura noticed several flying ink creatures swooping in to attack them. Tachibana scowled as he heard the squeal of a hawk that was on its dive to grab either Sakura or him with its claws. Sakura pulled out a few kunai from her shinobi pouch and flicked them ahead at the trees that were surrounding them, creating a quick wire trap for the hawk to fly into. Why does she have so many wire kunai prepared? Tachibana wondered, but before he could think further he looked behind and saw the hawk that was diving towards them exploding into a shower of ink when it was sliced away by Sakura's sharp wires. Sakura noted the fragility of the ink creatures and continued to follow Tachibana to go to Sasuke. Moments later, Sasuke and Sakura arrived at their earlier location and found him combating a few creatures on his own. Sasuke was in a taijutsu match with a monkey and simultaneously deflecting attacks from a crane and a snake that were both trying to either constrict him with their moves to make an opening for the monkey to land a blow or trying to directly take advantage of the openings that Sasuke was forced to show since he was fighting multiple enemies. As soon as Tachibana arrived at the spot, the first thing he did was flick 4 shuriken at once towards the ink creatures that were carrying away the Aburame Shinobi. The ink creatures all exploded and dropped the Aburame Shinobi, but Tachibana didn't stop there. "Sasuke-kun, are you alright?" Sakura asked as soon as she joined to fight with him. Tachibana on the other hand quickly moved towards Naruto's cage and kicked open the cage door after breaking the lock. Naruto pretended to be asleep for a second even when Tachibana dragged him out, but quickly stood up when Tachibana said, "Naruto, we need you." Naruto immediately stood up and performed his trademark jutsu as soon as he heard Tachibana shout. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Tens of Naruto clones immediately spawned and immediately began to fight back the weak ink creatures that were trying to take away the single Aburame Shinobi that was left behind. Naruto's clones were super effective. Tachibana and the rest of Team 7 stayed vigilant and kept guard on their prisoner of war. "Keep guard on him. Our enemy doesn't want us to get our hands on him," Tachibana shouted over the noise of ink creatures and Naruto's clones popping. Sakura nodded while Tachibana gave Sasuke another command. "Sasuke-kun, can you find where our enemy is?" Tachibana, relying on spirit vision, didn't see Sai anywhere near them. Not even in the sky on a flying ink creature, but he wasn't hell-bent of finding him since in the show Sai was shown to be able to send his creatures on long scouting missions. Yet, Tachibana didn't stop there when a simple but brilliant idea emerged in his head. "Why don't I do that?" Tachibana quickly picked up the disabled Aburame Shinobi by his collar and put a kunai at his neck. "If you don't stop, I'll stab him," Tachibana shouted out loud. The assault of the ink creatures didn't reduce but only became more frantic, but Tachibana did exactly as he'd said. Even though the Aburame Shinobi rebelled in his hand by kicking his legs, Tachibana quickly stabbed the kunai in his hands into the Aburame Shinobi's shoulder, causing the shinobi to squirm in pain as blood suddenly poured out of his body. Naruto, Sakura and Sasuke were shocked, not just because of the brutality with which Tachibana had acted, but because of his decision. In their case, since they didn't know who their enemy was or even his level, it was rather risky to aggravate their enemy further by killing off his teammates. But that wasn't all Tachibana did. As soon as Tachibana saw that the Aburame Shinobi was still trying to resist his assault and preventing the insects in his body from escaping, Tachibana twisted the kunai inside his shoulder. The sudden egregious assault of pain caused the shinobi to nearly pass out, but that was enough. Insects immediately buzzed out of the shinobi's body as they poured out in hordes to attack Tachibana, who was attacking their host. Got you. For more thrilling fanfiction stories like this, check out my channel Fanfic Audiobook. Dive into epic adventures, mysterious realms, and legendary journeys brought to life through immersive storytelling. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing audiobooks.